This episode of the Nerd Corporation podcast may contain spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
You are listening to the Nerd Corp podcast. This is Carlos Ferro, the voice of Dominic Santiago in the Gears of War franchise, and a bunch of others saying, "Sup, bitches! Chit chat!"
Welcome to the Nerd Corporation.
What up, everybody? It's podcast day. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 8, Resident Evil Nerds. We're here to talk about the Resident Evil game series. I have such an emotional connection to these games. That's because I've played them ever since I was a little kid, from watching my uncle play them to me and my sister playing them. It's these games are so awesome, and I'm so happy that we got to this point, especially in the month of October, which is so fitting.
Yeah, this is easily, hands down, probably my favorite game series of all time. I can remember back when our family had our family computer, and I had Resident Evil 2 on the computer, and I would play it every single night, and I would put headphones on and just scare the shit out of myself.
It's so crazy. Like, I remember playing with my uncle, and I can't remember which. It was one of the first three, and in those three, there's like a morgue scene, right? So my uncle would play, and I'd watch him. He was laying on the couch, and he had one foot down, and we were in the morgue scene. And you know how it's like, there are no zombies in either bit of the bed, but when you get to the very end of the morgue or whatever, there's that one zombie that crawls, and he was playing it for the first time. And he gets a zombie to grab onto his foot, and he physically flings his left foot. And he's just like, oh, shit. And it little things like that, like, make me love this game a little more.
Yeah. Like, I can still remember back to when I was first playing, like, when I had first played Resident Evil, was on that computer, because I didn't have a PlayStation until later when it originally released, and I hadn't played the first one at all at this point in time. But I remember that scene where you're walking through the police station in number 2, and you catch a glimpse of the first licker just crawling across the window.
Oh,
what the fuck was that, dude? Yeah, dude. And then when he comes into that room and it goes into the cutscene of it above him, it's like, oh my god, and then it comes down and frantically trying to kill it with what ammo you have.
Yeah, dude.
So, my first memory with Resident Evil was actually when I was quite a bit younger, and one thing you need to know about me is I was a gigantic pussy when I was a lot younger. Like,
wow.
Yes, I guess you could say that about any time now. You could make a pretty good case. I'll just say that right now. My dad would have a hard time because we would go through, like, Walmart. This would be any Walmart, visit. And we'd go in the back, and Dad, it's funny because I do the same thing my dad does now, where he just kind of liked to browse the movies, and I like browse the movies and the games. So back then, I would, wander, and I'd find all of the scary cover art for scary movies, and I wouldn't be able to sleep for days. I don't even know what it was. I was so scared. And the one that got me the most was Scream. The Mask from Scream. I just don't know what it was. I just couldn't handle it at all and could not sleep for days. And my dad was like, yeah, we're never going to Walmart again.
I mean, there are many reasons to make that statement.
Well, yeah. So
prices are so low, though.
I had a couple of buddies that lived down the street from me, Blake and Taylor Jacobson. I doubt that they're listening to this right now, but they were my best friends back in the day. And
now fuck them for not listening.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember Taylor had the original DS, and he had gotten the weird port of the first Resident Evil game on there.
Yeah.
And I just remember I started it, and he's like, yeah, you can play it, I don't care. And I just sat down and I started playing it. I had no idea what it was. And I think it just was right when the DS came out. And so I was like more enamored with the DS instead of the game. And so I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then, yeah, that game fucked me up. I was like, this shit's really fucking scary.
Really
and not like, you know, I don't know why, but I kind of was able to brush it off. But yeah, I just remember thinking, like, I don't want to play this game because it's too scary.
That's funny. Derek, you haven't played any of these games, have you?
Well, no. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but one of the other episodes that we recorded, I mentioned that I played the one on the GameCube.
Oh, that's right. Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, but that's my only experience with it. And I didn't really play. I was just hanging out with my buddy while he played. And it was awesome and crazy suspenseful and cool. But
yeah, that game... Well, Resident Evil 4 is probably the best in the series, if not one of the best games ever.
Of all time.
Yeah. Well, let's get on with the nerd news. PS4 name changes.
yes!
Finally.
It's been a long time coming. I have really no qualms with my PS4 name, but, I mean, I'd like to take those X's out at some point. Like, I saw this article that, I think it was Kotaku that posted it, that said, you can finally change your name from, and then they made up this name where it was like XX underscore Goku Sephiroth 420, and I was like, well shit, is that name available? Because I'm going to change it to that.
Yeah, dude, I am so ready. 'Cause, like, I mean, I've had mine since, well, you were able to or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, what do I even call myself? I didn't even, you know, back then I didn't have Eddie Lion on, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, you know, I'll be like Vocal 85 or something, but no, I gotta be cool. Let's add a K in there and be like Vocal 85.
I think it's a cool name, personally. I mean, that, I don't know. I just think it's a cool name.
Weren't we talking the other day about how PlayStation was acting like it was something that was physically just impossible for them to do because of this, that, and the other? And, I mean, come to find out, no, we're just being obstinate assholes and
Just
making up reasons that we can't do it.
Yeah.
And then, all right, fine.
I mean, even Xbox, when you first create yours, you get one free change, and then you can do it multiple times after. You just have to pay $10 each time.
Yeah. And
It's
I mean,
still there
I'm hoping that'll be the case for that too. You know, hopefully they'll give us the first freebie or whatever. But
I think so.
But I am super excited to change my name.
You know, I stated I think it was the last episode where, you know, Xbox did something where they tied it to numbers. So it's just like every time you put in a new name, it just tied it to another set of numbers, and that was your code, basically.
Right.
And I think with the PS3, that's when the you know, the PlayStation ecosystem really launched. You know, I think it was just a really bad decision on whatever they did, you know, and you could chalk that up to any number of bad decisions that they did with the PS3.
Yeah.
Where it's like they just made it incredibly hard for themselves to change it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that they're just assholes that, you know, had a hard time doing it, but I do think that it was like impossible for them to do it because of something that they did so long ago. And it's even something where I heard that if you wanted to change your name on PS4, you would have to delete everything that you did on PS3.
And that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, and so it's like, but that would make sense. That would go in line with my theory that they did something with PS3 where it's just like, we can't do it. Yeah. So I don't know.
And then maybe they just found some
yeah,
way.
Obviously they found something, but the thing is, the running joke is that we go through this every year. They always say like, oh, you know, name changes are coming, you know, and they drop it or something. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, you know, we're going to be able to do it this time. But it's like, it never happens. I'm at a point now where I really like my name on PlayStation. Like, it's my name for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and now that I actually have platinum trophies, it's like going forward anytime now, I'm going to be pissed
Yeah, if you have
kind of
to,
program it. You know, but like, dude, I've had so many PlayStation name changes and all this stuff because, like, you know, I had my first PS3 way back in the day, and I don't remember any of my sign-in shit. So it's like, if I don't remember, you know, fuck it. I'm gonna throw in a new name and a new password, and you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, dude.
It was never a big deal for me.
Yeah, I remember I went and created this Vocal85 account. It was my second name because my first name was L Panda, like the panda.
Rad.
And
you should have kept that.
And I was just like, I don't know if I want to do that. But another piece of nerd news: Victor Miller got the win in the lawsuit for Friday the 13th.
Really?
Yeah, the copyrights and all that stuff are his now.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that, because what does that mean for Friday the 13th, the game?
Oh.
I don't know, because that game has a really rough go. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, it's a crowd-funded game, so I mean, of course it's going to have a rough go, but yeah, they were waiting to release DLC.
Yeah.
Because of this.
Yeah, they couldn't.
Because
they
of
were
this lawsuit.
in legal battle.
So I don't know if Victor Miller will probably be like, yeah, no, go ahead, you know, release that DLC, just kick me back some cash.
If he did that, then what was the point of...
For royalties, maybe?
Could be. I don't know. I always thought that was a very sticky situation, and there was no way of figuring out. There was no clean way to resolve it. But that must be it. I mean, I'm totally ignorant on this subject because I haven't been paying attention to it at all. But
I love that game. Like, that game is so cool. I mean, it's buggy as fuck, but I mean, it's fun.
So what's the difference between that and the game that you're playing right now?
Dead by Daylight?
Yeah.
Dead by Daylight is pretty much like the more polished version of Friday the 13th, and it uses the other the other slashers. So you'll have your Freddy Krueger, your Leatherface, your pig from Saw. You know,
you'll eventually get all of those, but like in Dead by Daylight, there's different killers that you're trying to escape from, and there's really only like one like thing that you can do in Dead by Daylight, which is like start the generators and escape. But in Friday the 13th, like you can, you know, get the you can fix the car and escape in the car, or you can call the police and they'll come and like escort you out or whatever. So I don't know, they're both great games. I feel like.
Yeah, they're great. I love them both. They're both pretty much the same game, like as far as the shell is concerned, but they're different as far as like objectives and shit goes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And like, you know, where as in Friday the 13th you can only play as Jason. In these you've got. Not only do you have the slashers from the cult movies, they have their own monsters that they've created that have their own special powers and stuff.
I don't know if you saw when I was playing it on my stream the other night, but there was this one point where I was the last one alive, and the killer had just been like knocking me down, carrying me around, and I'd escaped because they were honestly they were awful at being the killer. And Brian was watching, and he was like, "This is the worst killer I've ever seen." He plays that game like religiously, you know?
Yeah.
And so what he's doing is he's carrying me around, and unbeknownst to me, you can escape through this hatch in the ground. And the killer was like, maybe I can drop him in here, you know? So he's trying to drop me in there, and I escape, and then I just push the button to escape through the hatch, and I fucking won the game. I was like, okay, so that was for me.
That game gets competitive.
Yeah.
Like, that game gets super competitive. I've had people message me.
I saw that.
Like, I had people message me, because, okay, this is, when I'm the killer, this is what I do. I'll kill him, I'll hook him, you'll, like, carry him, and there are these like sacrificial hooks.
Yeah, like Leatherface.
Yeah. And so you'll put them on the hooks, and they'll sit there for a while, and then an entity is summoned, and they have so much time to struggle against the entity until somebody can come and get them off the hooks. So what I would do is I would wait until the entity was summoned, and then I'd like go off and try to find somebody else, because the next time you hook them after the entity's summoned, the entity just takes them.
Okay.
And so what I would do is I'd hook them, and then I'd just like kind of patrol around. I'd bust some generators, but I'd never leave that hook.
Yeah.
And dudes would get mad.
Yeah.
You're a fucking camper, bro. you're a fucking camper. Like, I could understand if I was standing right in front of your hook and I was just like, hey, what's up, dude? Like,
I mean, that's just
having
called
a conversation.
strategy.
Yeah, you
like
know what I mean? Yeah, and it's just me trying to make sure that I can at least, if I get you again, it's game over.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just, no, you're a fucking camper, bro. Like, dude, like, seriously, in the last week and a half, I've had 4 different dudes like hit me up and they're just like, oh, blah, 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 you're a fucking camper, meh, meh, meh.
There was one game I played where it was right after it came out and I bought it. It was like $20 on Steam. Like, I hadn't even played it on PlayStation, like, until it went free. Mm-hmm. But I bought it, and I was playing it, and I was, like, trying to get the hang of it, because there are so many perks that you can get for, each survivor and killer. And, like, I mean, you get, like, massive amounts of, like, blood points, like, at the end of each match.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm just like, fuck, dude, what do I get? Like, all of this. But the first game I was playing, like, maybe second or third game, I should say, I was one of the killers, and I literally took down, like, the entire team. Like, nobody really knew what they were doing because it was a fresh game. So they're, like, trying to fix these generators, and I hear it, and I just walk over, and I just hit them, like, all, because you hit, and then you have to recharge, right?
Right.
So I hit one, he goes down, I, like, recharge, and then I was playing as the nurse, where she can, like, teleport to him.
Oh, gotcha.
So I just kept doing that. And I got all 4 of them, and I was like, is that it? Like, did I just win?
Is there no one else?
Is there no one else?
That reminds me of Grandma's Boy. Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Well, high score,
I
what
was
does
just
that
thinking
mean?
of that. Did I break it? I got some news on the Kingdom Hearts front, and this is something that I didn't think was happening for a minute, but they are releasing a game that has Kingdom Hearts, all 9 games on it, called The Story So Far. It's coming out at the end of this month
for $40.
For $40, like, that is a steal.
Yeah,
because when, like, HD Remix and all those came out, they were each like $40 when they came out, if I remember. And my friends actually, he lent me 1.5 and 2.5, and I honestly haven't touched it because there's so much other shit that I'm playing.
It's very daunting.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. No, I'm doing it. The moment it comes out, dude, I'm getting it.
But yeah, end of this month. I didn't think that it was going to be... I was like, oh yeah, they'll have some time to release that because Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't come out till January, and it's just like, nope, end of October. Here you go. Here's all the games.
And that'll be cool, too, because I've honestly only ever played 1.
Did you play it all the way through?
Yeah.
I've never played a Kingdom Hearts.
Here you go.
They're so fun, dude.
For you, Derek.
I never have.
The thing is it's not for everyone, but you have to give it a chance. Like, you have to.
That's fair.
It's a very strange amalgamation of all these different things, and Kingdom Hearts. You can't come to me for an objective review of Kingdom Hearts because I love these games so much.
Sure.
Like, I've been in these games since the early aughts, and I've never let go. Like, you know,
early aughts, you fucking hipster.
I love that term, dude. I don't give a fuck.
No, I'm just kidding.
But no, to me, it's like, I've always thought of them as Disney sponsored Final Fantasy games. Mm-hmm. Like, that's
yeah. So, and the thing is I get my panties in a bunch when they say, "Oh, it can't stand up by itself without Disney." Yeah, it totally can.
Yeah, it really can.
There are games where it has done that.
Yeah.
Like, I never go into a Kingdom Hearts game going like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited to go to Tarzan." No, I'm not. Like, I play it for the characters that they've made. You know, it's not even a matter of like seeing the cool Final Fantasy character because I'm not attached to really like any Final Fantasy characters except for the ones in 7.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's the honest truth is like I could care less about all these other Final Fantasy people. Like, most of the time I was like, oh, is that a new character? Oh no, he was in a Final Fantasy game decades ago. You know what I mean? Like, it's never been. And the thing is like, those games are so up their own ass with their story. I have this hate-love relationship with the director of those games. His name's Tetsuya Nomura. I hate him. I hate Tetsuya Nomura. I fucking hate.
But how do you really feel?
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you right now.
I hate him, dude, because he's got this stupid like perfectionism thing where he feels like it has to be perfect, but it feels like his idea of perfect is not the same as everyone else's, because if you remember, he was in charge of Final Fantasy 15 back when it was not Final Fantasy 15. It was actually called Final Fantasy Versus 13. It was supposed to be a spin-off of the 13 games. But, development hell all over the place. And the top brass had to come down and say, hey, where's this game? It was supposed to come out forever ago, And so they're saying all this stuff about how, we don't know what to do because this game is like not even close to being shipped. So what do we do? And so they took Nomura off, and which is funny because they put him. Kingdom Hearts is his child. Like, he created that entire, like, if you wanted to go at the, where it came from, him, like 100%. He had no help from anyone else. So I guess I should give him props for that. But the thing is that he's now in charge of that, and he's in charge of Kingdom Hearts 3, and he's in charge of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So whenever you hear that Nomura is in charge of something, just slap an extra 5 years on that development, and that's when you'll see that game.
Jesus.
Just to put it in tow for you, Kingdom Hearts 2, 2005. That's the last time we got a true numbered Kingdom Hearts game. Mm-hmm. The rest of them have been spin-offs with very little involvement with Nomura.
Wow.
And you're going to get,
How long did Final Fantasy 15 take to actually release?
11 years.
Yep.
Which, that game is fucking phenomenal, though. Like,
but that game is a shell of what it was. They had to completely revamp everything with that game.
Damn.
They brought in, it's same team, but like if you, and like one of these times I'll show you, but like if you watch the reveal trailer for Final Fantasy Versus 13 and then you watch the launch trailer for Final Fantasy 15, two completely different games. It's insane.
Crazy.
And like they forcefully had to remove Nomura and be like, hey, you know what, we're going to give it to someone else. Which is, I don't know, it says a lot about Nomura.
And if you're interested in, there's about a minute-long video on, I got this story from IGN, there's about a minute-long video on their app that I'm looking at where it's a, what is it? It's a side-by-side review of like every single game in the collection. Like, it's only a minute long, so it's not going to be an in-depth review, but they talk about each one as much as they can. So if you haven't ever played Kingdom Hearts and you kind of want a little synopsis of it, that's a good place to go to get it. Or you can just, YouTube
or just
Cliff
Google
Notes
it.
version.
Google it.
Yeah, Derek.
All right, I will.
I don't know, Google it!
In a way...
We opened up for O-Town, Google it.
Looked it up on the Googles.
In a way, you could do that, but I feel like it's one of those games that you're really not going to get it unless you play it.
Right.
Like,
no,
I thought about it.
Much.
Holy God, there's
so
too much.
I really only played, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I only really played the ones on the PlayStation 2, like Kingdom Hearts 2. I didn't really even touch into like Birth by Sleep and all that because they were all like sporadically spread throughout like the DS and the 3DS history, which I didn't really have very much of at any given time, so I'm like, there's like bits and pieces that I don't even know about, which is why I want to get this game, but that's 4 days after Red Dead 2 comes out. And
see, but the thing is
not going to get touched.
Yeah, so this is kind of my roadmap for the rest of the year. Is Red Dead's going to come out, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it.
I'm taking the 26th off of work. I don't give a fuck.
See, and I'm already jealous of everyone because I'm broke as fuck. And there are all of these games coming out that I'm just like salivating for, and I know I'm not going to be able to get
Red
any
Dead.
of them.
Just get Red Dead.
I can't get anything.
Yeah.
I'm broke. Like,
so Nick, you're getting Fallout 76.
Well, I mean,
Cole, are you getting Fallout 76?
I'm reserving my decision for when God knows when the beta's coming out, but
beta comes out the end of this month.
I at least want to play that first.
We have to
see what it's like.
The beta for Fallout 76 comes out on the 30th, and it's going to be on It's going to be on until the 11th of November, which is 3 days before release.
Oh, that's perfect.
I'm good. I've already. It's a lengthy.
Wow.
Xbox gets it on the 23rd.
Really?
Xbox gets it on the 23rd up until the 11th. But
I'm gonna be at your house just to check it out because I don't know. I mean, and if anyone can make me love,
just do the old like Amazon switcheroo. Just pre-order it.
Well,
get the
beta, the thing
is
like money really isn't an issue, and it's necessarily like I'm probably gonna buy it. If I'm being 100% real with you, I'm gonna buy it just because I know Angela's ass is gonna want it. Like she tells me right now, Stone Cold, she's like, I don't want it. But I know that like when she sees a video or something, she's gonna be like, hey,
I remember how
can we go get it?
How like mind boggled and speechless, like because I came over and I watched E3 at your guys' house, and they brought that up, and we're just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And Angela was like, I fucking knew it. It's like
that it was online. Yeah. She was not happy.
I'm getting it.
Yeah.
I'm Derek, you're getting it. I'm gonna buy it for you.
Yay!
We're gonna call that your early Christmas present. And if you're gonna get it, Nick and Cole, if you get it, Nerdcorpia needs to be a thing.
I mean, like
we can play it and then we can talk about it.
I gotta say, personally, I know you guys love it. Personally, I actually do prefer Nerdcorpistan. I think that's hilarious.
I think that makes
it is
really.
There is like a comedic spin on it.
It's so fun. Anyway,
but I mean, and like the more I read about this game, the more I am just so ready. Server size is such a low scale. So this game has 4 times the map that Fallout 4 had.
Okay.
And within that, there are only going to be 24 players in any given server.
Uh-huh.
So that's, 6 teams of 4? If my maths are right?
No.
That's not right.
5 teams of 4?
I honestly wasn't listening for a minute there. So I couldn't tell you what your math was.
Well, 24 people in every given server, teams of 4. That's what? I don't fucking math, bro.
Like 6 times 4.
Don't fucking math.
Yeah, that's right. That's
you're
6
right. You're right. I just thought it was funny.
Make me fucking doubt myself, you piece of shit.
My best trait.
But yeah, so I mean, like you'll hardly ever have to run into people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
There will be live events like in Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
There will be certain areas where you can mine resources.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have these like harvester machines that you make with your camp. And your camp doesn't stay there. When you log out, your camp leaves with you.
Oh, okay.
So I can't be fucked with.
Yeah, so it can't be fucked with. So I don't know. I know I'm going to be balls.
It sounds like they announced it all online, and then they're like, okay, we have to like buckle down and make it so that people don't fucking hate this and can't get like messed with.
Yeah.
While they're not even playing.
And then like the griefing system is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
You know, if somebody kills you, they don't get anything. You don't lose anything. And what happens is that you'll become a wanted murderer, and there'll be a bounty on your head. And if you get killed, that bounty comes out of your caps. I think this is going to be a really great addition to the Fallout series. Like I am not as apprehensive as most Fallout fans are for it. I think this is going to be a very welcome.
Well, and it sounds like they put a lot of consideration into what they knew people were going to have questions about and concerns with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Bethesda takes care of their fans. So I know, like, without a shadow of a doubt that this game is
they're one of the only companies that, like, genuinely gives a shit about their fans. If I buy this game, it's 100% just so I can play with you guys. Sweet. Like I don't really see myself.
Since I'm getting it as an early Christmas present, you should definitely play with us. We're all rubbing our nipples since you guys can't see us. I'm just letting you know.
I did want to.
You gotta buy him this game now. I don't know if
I'm going to.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Y'all think I'm fucking around. I want somebody that's going to fucking invest time and play the game with me.
Goddamn right.
I know Derek will.
I did want to mention, just off, kind of out of the blue, off the topic, I was afraid that GameStop ran out of their Ultimate Editions of Red Dead 2. They did not. I got one pre-ordered.
Those are one of those editions that I figured that they would always, because it's Rockstar and they love money. So I always kind of figured that they would just...
Because I've ran into issues before of not being able to pre-order something. Like, I missed out on the God of War PS4. Mm-hmm. I missed out on... What was it? It was some other... It was the Resident Evil. The big holy shit edition of Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah.
I missed out on that. And that doesn't come out till January. Yeah. Like, that's already out.
Oh my god, I'm going to buy that too.
I mean, I have the game pre-ordered on Amazon, but
there's too many games.
There are, dude. Like, I'm not gonna get Red Dead until like a month after release.
Oh, I'm getting it.
What?
I'm getting it.
Yeah, dude. Because I've got.
Fuck! Now I gotta buy this game for him.
What about me? I need it too.
Nobody's buying me games.
Well, because I'm broke, or I would.
Maybe I am too.
I'm going to be broke. I'm going to be broke as a result because I got Black Ops 4, the not the fuck your mother edition, but like the fuck your brother edition.
That somehow seems like it would be a more hardcore edition.
It's a little niche.
It's a niche market.
I've got that. I've got
Tricentennial 76.
I got Tricentennial 76, and I've got what else? I'm actually going to buy One's Justice over Red Dead.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Eddie.
Why Tricentennial?
Eddie.
Just do it.
Can we talk right now? Eddie. I can't believe I have to tell you this. Do not buy Black Ops.
What?
Buy Red Dead.
I already bought Black Ops.
Son of a bitch.
Transfer it over.
Go in tomorrow. How much did you pay for Black Ops?
120.
Holy Jesus.
Get the Ultimate Edition of Red Dead.
I got it.
To transfer 100 of that over to Red Dead, you still have $20 on Black Ops. Get the base of but Eddie.
I can't, dude.
Eddie.
I can't. No,
you're gonna make me cry, bro. Don't do this to me, dog.
No, it's because so Black Ops for me is a lot more than just like playing online and doing all that shit. That's like my you know how you have those games where you connect with people with you know what I mean. My sister lives in San Antonio, and one of our favorite pastimes ever since like we've played a Call of Duty game was playing zombies together, and so they've already pre-ordered it. So I'm gonna pre-order it, so that way we have our game. It's more of a sentimental thing.
You break my heart.
Well, fuck you, because I'm gonna play with my sister.
You're breaking my balls, huh?
All right, so my news is gonna break away from games. So, as of October 7th, guess what we've got? New Doctor Who.
Oh.
New Who.
Nice. And that's Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who.
Yes, Jodie Whittaker's, and as an extension of news as well, Jodie Whittaker is the first Doctor Who, or Doctor, however you prefer. I prefer Doctor, but the first Doctor who has had a Barbie.
Really?
Yes. I'm looking at the story right now. She's the first.
What?
So Mattel decided that since she's the first female Doctor, that she would have the first Doctor Who Barbie doll. So if you're interested in anything like that, the pre-orders for it have already begun. You can get it. You can pre-order it from Hot Topic, bbcshop.com, and Barbie.com, and they'll actually be delivered around September 3rd. So you'll be able to get it before the holidays or around the holidays. I mean...
Wait, September?
No, December. Did I say September?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
It's September 3rd.
Yeah, well, December 3rd, because that makes way more sense. Because September is already passed. God, I can't even,
September 3rd of next year, you'll receive it.
You'll get it before the next set of holidays.
We're all a little confuzzled here today.
Yeah.
But, so you'll be able to get it around the holidays. Granted, December 3rd, I feel like is a very specific date that I feel like if there's a lot of demand, that could be tough. But it sounds like they're trying to do it in enough advance time that no matter what, you'll get it around the holidays.
Dude, my son would kill.
Yeah, and
for
it's
a Doctor Who
and it looks great. Like there are pictures of it online in case you're interested.
Do they have a price?
I didn't.
Like, how much would
see
one of these go
I mean,
for?
granted, I'm sure you can go to the website and look at the price there, but
I mean, how much does a Barbie go for?
Like anywhere between $15 to $20.
I have no idea. I know that like when you throw a
let's see if I can
franchise on it, then
yeah, I'm sure it's gonna at least be a little bit.
My son he collects Monster High dolls.
okay.
And so those dolls usually run from like $17 to $24 depending on like either size or
I guess that's not that bad then.
yeah, you know what I mean? So I mean, I'm sure maybe $30 to $40, I'd assume.
Let's see if I can find it here.
Oh yeah, so like a normal Barbie's going for like $20.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess depending on, because I assume that like Barbies and stuff like that have the same, you know, like this one you can't find anywhere, like Funkos, you know.
Yeah,
this
right,
one's
absolutely.
like $100. Like,
Yeah.
I can't see this Doctor Who one being super expensive though.
And as of October 7th, also we got the new season of Walking Dead without Rick Grimes.
So I'm confused on the timeline here. So did he? I'm gonna guess that he dies.
I'd assume.
Right? So did he die in the last season, or is he die in the first episode of this season?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not
am
caught up yet.
So behind on that show.
I
just
meant
kinda
like
stopped watching it.
I meant like the beginning of season 7.
So, what The Walking Dead is kind of like, it's one of those shows that me and Angela, like when we were first dating, like that's one of the shows that we watched hard. Like we loved that show, and I bought every season on PlayStation, and it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. It was like, this is breaking my heart. But I took a step back and I was like, I looked at Angela and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's just like, I have no connection with any of these characters anymore. Like, it's boring. And
like, the last thing I remember was when they had all gotten captured, I think, and by the cannibals, and they're about to eat Bob, and like they ended up eating him, but he was already infected.
and he's
Like
Tainted
chemical
me.
warfare, yeah.
Tainted me.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's the last thing I remember.
I can't remember. It's been a long time, but that show, I can't do it anymore.
I still dig it because I read all of the graphic novels. So I mean, but it's crazy because the graphic novels and the TV show are two very separate entities.
I was gonna say, I feel like the graphic
There
novel
are
would-
some similarities, though.
There definitely are some similarities, but they're definitely two different. Like, what is it? Daryl and Merle are not characters in the.
Really?
And I remember, because I have the compendium, I think, which is like the book one in like a collection that I bought at Hastings that was like, I don't know where that book is, but it's like a big, huge, like hardback, and it has like the first 6 books in it, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I remember that Dale and Andrea were like shacking up.
Yeah, Dale
And I was
and
like,
Andrea
they
were-
hate each other
yeah.
in the show, dude. They're always at
Dale-
each other's throats.
And at the time of, I think it would be like by the time the 3rd season rolls around, Rick should have already lost a hand.
Yeah.
And it was just, there are definitely differences, but I mean, like as a whole, they're the same.
Yeah.
So I like seeing the little things that they kept and the things that they changed and stuff.
If you like the graphic novels, I actually looked into these books a while back, and I read them while I was working at Convergys when we got slow. They're like books based on how the governor comes to power. There's like Rise of the Governor, Fall of the Governor. There's like 3 or 4 books that are written by Robert Kirkman and Jay Bonassinga, the guys that do the graphic novels. But they're actual novels, and they were like some of the best like Walking Dead books that I've ever read.
That's awesome.
So you should check those out.
Well, and we need to mention the sad news, the sad Walking Dead news.
Yes, Scott Wilson. He
Passed away at 76.
leukemia, was it?
Really?
Yeah. Poor guy.
Which when I didn't read the full article, but I saw 76, and I was like, in today's day and age, that's nothing. Like, my grandma is 87. You know, like I was like, okay, and then I read a little bit more into it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So, rest in peace, Scott Wilson. Herschel is tending to his farm as we speak.
A little bit of a higher note. Skybound Entertainment is now funding the rest of the Telltale Walking Dead season.
Oh,
yes. Yep.
Praise.
It's happening.
Praise
They're
the
gonna
universe.
finish that season.
Oh my goodness. That makes me happy.
Just finish that season, or are they
just
going
that
to,
season?
Okay, because I was gonna say I don't know if I want anybody else to.
Skybound Entertainment is the company behind the Robert Kirkland Walking Dead comic.
Because I was gonna say I don't know if I want another company making another Telltale Walking Dead game, because they did such an amazing goddamn job at those games.
Yeah, dude. Telltale, I'm just so sad to see Telltale go.
Any of those, minus the Game of Thrones game, that was kind of boring.
Yeah, that was kind of wonky too.
But anything else that they put out, like Wolf Among Us, was amazing.
Back to the Future was so cool.
I didn't play Back to the Future, but Wolf Among Us, I'm playing, like I mentioned last episode, I'm playing through the first Batman, which is phenomenal.
Amazing.
So good.
Amazing.
That first season?
Yeah.
Because I have it on Switch and I haven't even touched it.
And then they've got got another one where it features the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that one's on Switch too. Yeah, at a New York City Comic-Con panel, Kirkman told that his company had come to a deal with Telltale to complete the story. Skybound will work with members of the original Telltale team to finish the story.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been such a tragedy because Clementine in that story is such a unique and an awesome character that it would have been really sad.
And the shift of I guess you could say shift of power from. I'm spacing on the original main character's name.
Oh, what is his
the
name?
guy that rescues her?
Lee.
From going from him being the main character and just all of a sudden she's the main character, and how fantastic and the
ending to
Stone
that
Cold
game
she
is
becomes.
phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely way cool.
I don't know. It's so sad because there was so much fuckery going on behind the upper management of Telltale, where it's like you can't even imagine the stupid decisions. They can't even, all of these developers are out on their ass. They didn't get severance pay.
No.
None of them were told what was going on. They just came into work one day and they were like, hey, we're shutting our doors. And thank God we have caring and understanding people in the game development.
With Skybound, and not only that, but we kind of touched briefly on it last episode, how Naughty Dog is
they're offering jobs
to those people,
right?
Which is cool because those they're incredibly talented, especially those storytellers, and the writers. They have some of the most, you can shit on Telltale's engine as much as you want, and trust me, I will. But those stories are phenomenal. They have really, really good stories.
Even Tales from the Borderlands was a great game. I don't know if you played that one.
Mm-hmm.
We should also mention the pictures of the David Harbour Hellboy.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
We can't forget that.
Yeah, David Harbour's Hellboy looks amazing.
I am so with it.
So he's an actor.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's the sheriff in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And I don't know why I've got a major soft spot for him. I think he's awesome.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great actor, dude.
He seems like a really, not that I know, but he seems like a really cool dude.
Yeah.
And so it's really exciting.
And you've got all your gung-ho, butthurt fanboys. If it's not Perlman, I'm not watching it.
Oh, yeah, dude. I am
give it
so
a rest,
over
dude.
You know what?
shit.
Leave Ron Perlman alone. That poor man. He is old. Leave him be.
Right?
Leave him.
Already in Sons of Anarchy for 9 years?
I feel the same way about him as I feel about WWE using and abusing the Undertaker. Let him just relax.
Let the man die already.
Let him enjoy retirement,
But
for fuck's sake.
Swear to God.
At the same time,
I swear to God.
At the same time, I don't want the Undertaker to leave.
Oh, I know.
He's already half gone, though.
But
He's got 1 foot out the door.
So for anybody that, and I won't go into it, but like for anybody that saw the end of the pay-per-view,
Super Showdown,
at the very tail end of it, when Undertaker is leaving and walking up the ramp, if you look at his face, you can just see it. You can just see it in his face that, God, is this over yet? Can a motherfucker just sit down and have a beer and be left the fuck alone?
It's kind of funny. Like at the end of the match, you see him just laying there like,
yeah.
He's just like, are we done?
Yeah, can I
They
go?
don't like Conor McGregor after he got tapped out last night.
Oh my God! Oh my God! We're not a sportscast, but holy shit! Can we talk about that for just a second? Like holy!
I remember
shit.
just seeing him like all crumpled up on the floor, and his stomach was like. I was like, God,
I saw the article talking about how, like, the dude fucked shit up after the match.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, did you see the video behind that?
Yeah.
The article just said Conor McGregor assaulted after UFC fight. And I hadn't watched it, but I typed in there and I was like, motherfucker got assaulted at the fight, like during the fight, from what I heard.
He really did, dude. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he owned that fight. Like, let me tell you, he owned the shit out of that fight. And at the end of that fight, they just fucking melee. It was like a WWE match.
Pandemonium.
One of the comments was saying, I almost could hear JR in the background, like, my God, it's pandemonium.
That shit straight reminded me of Office Space. Not gonna work here anymore anyway.
Not gonna work here anymore. That's for damn sure.
And it's true though. Like,
Yeah.
the Nevada Athletic State Commission is holding onto their purses. They're conducting an investigation and stuff. And I don't know.
Dana White straight up said, "You will not fight here anymore."
Yeah,
from what I read.
Yeah, Dana White's pissed.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
Fucking Dana White, dude. He's probably like, oh my God, my life is ending.
yeah, dude. Could
But
you
the
imagine
publicity.
a multi-million-dollar company that you own
Yeah.
is just being made a mockery right now on live television in front of millions of people?
It's rough, dude. It's rough, like, watching that video. Like, my favorite part is... So, he jumps off, the Khabib guy, or whatever his name is, I don't know. Russian dude.
Kebab.
Have you seen the meme where it's like when someone calls you kebab?
Yes.
And he's jumping over the fence. So he jumps over the fence because apparently, like, this guy's been talking shit, like, during the match. And so when he taps him out, he, like, takes his mouth guard out. Like, he's won. You know, and he's walking around the octagon. He takes his mouth guard out and like chucks it at the fence where the guy's standing, and then all of a sudden he just jumps over the fence and just starts beating the hell out of this.
He jumps off of like the ledge and just like comes down with like a Superman punch. Like I saw the video.
No, dude, like there was one perspective where he comes out. He's literally doing this like front missile drop kick just right into this dude. He's like doing like a fucking what's his fucking face, the coup de grace. He's doing the coup de grace right off of the fucking thing. Finn Balor.
Yeah.
He's doing the Finn Balor stomp just right off of the thing, dude. It's so fucking crazy.
Not UFC related, but can we please discuss John Cena?
Okay, what's with the insurance salesman haircut?
I swear to God.
What's with the Spirit Fingers finisher? That's what I want to know.
So here's the thing. The only reason that I was somewhat semi-okay with it was because he had already done his real finishers. If there comes a day, which I know in my heart of hearts there will, but if there comes a day where that's the only finisher he does to end and win a match,
a straight right jab.
yeah, just like
that's when I saw the video. That's what I thought it was.
That's gonna piss me the fuck off. But no, he did do like all of his normal finishers,
Okay.
and then he did that as like a.
But all I saw was the video of him going like this.
Yeah.
And then boom, and
Well,
then he pinned him.
See, John Cena's been in China. He's been filming a movie out there or whatever, and so I guess there was this giant hype about some secret move that he learned called the 6th move of doom. It has some like it has some really large Mandarin name to it or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, well, that'll be cool to see. Maybe it's some, like, cool kick or something, or, like, some cool new slam or something. And it's literally him crossing his arms, and then
Wakanda forever.
Like, motherfucker finally adds a new move to his arsenal.
And it's a side right jab. And it's over. I'm just like, fuck
that,
you, John Cena.
That sounds...
Did he just go to China... just not get a haircut and then just come right back and fight? Like,
yeah, no, he came in his John Bradshaw Cena haircut. And
I mean, I do like. I will say I do like the trimmed down cut Cena a lot more than the balloon animal Cena.
Yeah, no, he does definitely look. He looks like a 2002 Cena when he first debuted.
Yeah,
I think what really happened is when he slimmed down, he gave all of his excess buff to Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
Like, they just traded off.
Yeah, they really did.
It was some sort of mad scientist thing where they're both on a table and there's muscle, like, going
Vince
from
McMahon
tubes.
flips the switch, like, it's alive!
You're switched!
So, by the way, I actually just happened upon some other news. Are you guys familiar with the fact that they're doing a Dark Crystal prequel?
Yes.
So, apparently... the creators have promised that it will be pure puppetry, no CGI.
Oh, back to practical props.
Yes, which I am super... Like, that makes me really happy. Like, that makes me more excited about it.
I've never seen the Dark Crystal.
Oh, it's so good.
For those of you that weren't seeing...
Nick nearly choked.
Yeah, Nick was taking a drink, and I said what I said, and he was just like... Huh!
I almost did a spit take, like, right into your... all over the equipment.
Yes, and you know what? You would have deserved it.
I've never seen the Dark Crystal.
Oh, it's a fantastic movie.
You're not alone.
Oh my god!
I've never seen this show.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So
is this the
ladies
one
and
with
gentlemen,
the guy with the giant balls? Which is this one with David Bowie?
That's the Labyrinth.
No. That's the Labyrinth.
I've never seen that one either.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Nerd Corporation has just lost 2 of its members.
We'll be taking over now.
Honestly,
No,
I don't know. I've heard these names before.
They're both great. Dark Crystal is amazing.
Yeah.
And
I'll have to watch it if we're gonna watch
Labyrinth is amazing too.
No, Dark Crystal is really good. It's got like it's pure. It's like all animatronic, isn't it? So
well, I mean, it's all puppetry.
All puppetry, just like this one's promising to be. The what do you call them? The Skeksis. Mm-hmm. Those are my favorite part. They just walk around and they have these really weird high pitched voices.
I've seen those. Yeah, okay.
It's really cool.
It's just a good old fashioned like fantasy movie that I love. Like, I saw it when I was a kid, and I loved it. Fizzgig! There's this dog that opens its mouth and it has like 9 rows of teeth.
That's amazing.
It's good.
So, my piece of nerd news would be really quick.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of news is going around about an updated Switch model, Nintendo Switch model.
Wow.
And I just kind of wanted to run through what I want for this thing.
Tell us what you want.
I actually want full Bluetooth support, please.
Yes.
It's 2018. I don't need to have proprietary Bluetooth in my systems. Like, if Sony can let go of that, I'm sure Nintendo can as well. The bezels on the screen of the Switch are gigantic, and it's eating up way too much of that screen. So I would like to have way less bezels. Like most modern phones today don't have bezels hardly at all. So it's like it would make sense to just throw in. And not only that, it's not like they're dealing with an OLED display in that thing. It's like it's not going to cost that much to throw, to just trim it up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see a not placed so fucking awkwardly charge port.
Okay, so you want one like on top?
Like, yeah, maybe on top so that you can actually stand it up while you're charging and play it like that with the 2 Joy-Cons. That's like my main gripe.
Bigger battery. I mean, battery's never been a real big issue for me, but I would like that.
Like bigger as in size or longer battery life?
Longer battery life. For sure.
I just want it to fill my entire pocket.
Yeah.
I just want this massive battery.
Well, I mean, the thing is that, you know, kind of going back to screen size, is that, you know, that it's a big machine. Like, it's an actual big screen. And so it's like, if you were to just trim up those bezels and give us just a hair bigger, like, it's going to feel like a completely new console.
Yeah.
You know?
Trim your bezels.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm super excited for it. You know me, I'm a giant Nintendo nerd, so I'm going to pick it up. And I'll probably end up giving one of you guys my other Switch.
Me.
Where's your broom at? I'm gonna snap it and give both sides and be like, fight to the death.
It's right in there.
But that's all I have.
All right, so after that hour of news, which I think is probably our longest news segment.
Probably won't. I'm sure that we'll have longer.
I feel like is it longer than our news episode?
I think it's about as long.
It's about as long.
I think it's about as long. Because that was one of our shorter episodes.
It really was.
Yeah.
On to the subject of today, Resident Evil. We are going to be doing the games, just the numbered ones, because I doubt we'll be here all night if we do.
Yeah, I'm sure me and Cole could talk about a lot more than just what we're going to cover.
Yeah. So let's start with Resident Evil number 1. Resident Evil, known in Japan as Biohazard, is a survival horror video game developed and released by Capcom originally for the PlayStation in 1996, and is the first game in the Resident Evil series. It is Capcom's best-selling debut game with sales of over 8.63 million copies worldwide. The game's plot follows Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, members of an elite task force known as STARS, which stands for Special Tactics and Rescue Service, as they investigate the outskirts of Raccoon City following the disappearance of their team members. They soon become trapped in a mansion infested with zombies and other monsters. The player, having selected to play as Chris or Jill at the start of the game, must explore the mansion to uncover its secrets.
I don't know if... Have you played, like, the original copy of Resident Evil?
Yeah.
You are almost a Jill sandwich.
Worst voice acting in any game that I've ever heard in my life.
It's up there.
Like
up
when
there.
when you're standing in
Jill
the
sandwich
foyer
sounds good.
with when you're standing there with Wesker and Jill, and you hear the noise or whatever, you hear like a slamming, and I think it's either Chris or Wesker goes, "What was that?" And I'm just like,
it's very phoned in. It's
Yeah.
very
Like, is it hammed up or?
Super.
like in my head, it would have been, "What was that?" Like, you know, but what was that?
like
there's
the
different
most
inflections.
B horror ever.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
it's
So
incredibly.
it's like, is it like listening to porn stars trying to act?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
spot on.
Yeah. Okay.
However,
All right.
if you get the redone version of it on PS4, like leagues better,
Updated.
Like, it looks
Okay.
so nice.
And you know, that game, the remake, it was coined as the remake, you know, which is funny because it's like when it came to PS4, it's called Resident Evil Remake Remaster, and it's just like, okay, when we're on PlayStation 6, is it going to be called remake, remastered, remake? You know what I mean? Like, it's like it's the naming conventions are getting out of hand when we're bringing IPs from the dead. Like,
Remake, remastered, revisited. Like,
Revamped.
I mean, and I don't know, like that game right there, the remake, stands as like one of my picks for like one of the greatest games ever made, and one of the scariest games ever made for sure.
absolutely.
Okay, so the objective of the game is to uncover the mystery of the mansion and ultimately escape alive. The game's graphics consist of real-time 3D polygonal characters and objects superimposed over pre-rendered backdrops with fixed camera angles. The player controls the character by pushing the D-pad or analog stick left or right to rotate the character, and then move the character forward or backward by pushing the D-pad up or down.
That's one thing that I will never forget about, like, especially Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
is
the camera angles. My God, were they awful?
Yeah,
they were so bad.
Because and it was that whole like tank maneuvering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like, okay, I need to go forward, and your guy will move backwards.
Yeah, because like
it's
if
too
the
bad
camera's...
there wasn't tank audio like.
Right? Like you'll have the fixed camera angle, and Jill or Chris are looking to the left of the screen. You still have to push up on the D-pad to make them move to the other side.
Luckily, when they released the first Resident Evil remastered remake or whatever on PS4, as well as they did, I think it was Resident Evil 0 also, like they made it so that it still has the fixed camera angles, but if you're running consistently in one direction and the camera changes, if you keep pushing that direction, you'll still be running in that direction.
Yeah.
So they totally fixed that this time around. But
you know, and they put it like that to add tension, because they wanted you to feel the fear of being chased by something so horrific as a reanimated corpse. So I don't understand it, just because like it does not translate well in 2018. Like, let's be 100% honest here. Like, this game does not hold up at all. The original PlayStation game does not hold up. And like when you say you want it on the PlayStation Classic, I say, oh nay nay. Oh nay nay. I want number 2. I want number 2 because they refined almost everything about this control scheme.
I don't know if I said first one. 2 is always hands down my top pick. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, it's just like the mixed in with the voice acting and the controls and the camera angles and like that added difficulty just in the movement. It's kind of just like, it's one of those games that I would say I will watch a playthrough of it on YouTube, because I don't want to go through
all of that.
Especially when you get to the gun shop and you get to talk to that guy. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he Canadian?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Each character has 4 endings, with the outcome being determined on whether they rescued the other 2 STARS members or not. The character who's not chosen by the player will be imprisoned in a solitary cell in the mansion's underground lab, and in order to access the cell, the player must collect a set of MO discs distributed within the mansion and use them in different decoding devices to unlock the door. To get the best ending, the player has to rescue the other protagonist in addition to their assigned partner. The best ending has Chris and Jill escaping the mansion alongside a 3rd STARS member, which you either have as Rebecca or Barry, depending on who you're controlling, after defeating the tyrant and destroying the mansion. The second best ending has the player character, either Chris or Jill, escaping with his or her partner, which is Rebecca or Barry, after defeating the tyrant and destroying the mansion. The second worst ending has Jill and Chris escaping as the 2 only survivors, with the mansion still intact and the tyrant set loose on the forest. The worst ending has your player character as the sole survivor, with the mansion still intact and the tyrant set loose on the forest.
Not
Jesus.
the forest.
That's dark.
Yeah, see, I've never actually played through like the entirety of like the first Resident Evil, so this is all news to me.
The only ending I've ever done was like the best ending, where I had everybody with me.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it kind of like, I know it's before the game's time, but it's kind of reminiscent to like the ending to Mass Effect 2, whereas if you do it a certain way, everyone can survive.
Traumatizing. That game is traumatizing.
I remember the first time I played through that game, I was like, I was trying to like, schmooze away with Miranda, and then when you're trying to escape and the pillar just falls on her, and I was like, what the fuck? No! No! Like, fell on my knees. No.
I stopped playing that game after it was my 3rd run. I was 100% convinced that no one died, and then that one chick that's like covered in tattoos and like the one that you rescue from the prison, she died like out of nowhere, and I'm like, I hate this game now. Resident Evil was created by a team of staff members who would later become part of Capcom Production Studio number 4. The project's development began in '93, and the game took 3 years to develop, which is crazy because that's a little out there for production times in the 90s. The roots of the project can be traced back to a horror game that Koji Oda was working on for the Super NES before moving development to the PlayStation in '94. The inspiration for Resident Evil was the earlier Capcom horror game Sweet Home from 1989, which is a really cool game. You should check it out. Just kind of like YouTube it. It's really cool looking. Shinji Mikami, which is a name you'll hear from me a lot. I look up to this guy a lot because he created some of the absolute best video games ever made. Shinji Mikami was initially commissioned to make a game set in a haunted mansion like Sweet Home, which Resident Evil was originally intended to be a remake of. The project was proposed by Sweet Home creator Takuro Fujiwara, who was Mikami's mentor and served as the game's producer. I love the names, though.
Yeah.
I love these
Fujiwara.
names.
Fujiwara.
Resident Evil is based on Sweet Home's gameplay system, adopting many elements from the game, including the limited item inventory management, the mansion setting, the puzzles, the emphasis on survival, the door loading screen, the use of scattered notes on diary entries, the storytelling mechanics, multiple endings depending on how many characters survive, backtracking to previous locations in order to solve puzzles later on, the use of death animations, individual character systems such as a lockpick or lighter, restoring health through items scattered across the mansion, the intricate layout of the mansion, and the brutally horrific imagery. Fujiwara said that the basic premise was that I'd be able to do the things that I wasn't able to include in Sweet Home, mainly on the graphics front, and that he was confident that horror games could become a genre in themselves. He entrusted Mikami, who was initially reluctant because he hated being scared with the project, because he understood what's frightening. And I think those kind of, like, when people are like, dude, I don't know if I want to make this because I fucking, could you imagine, it's like, the scary. Yeah, you know what I mean, the emotion that he'd be like, oh fuck. I think that added a lot to like the horror aspect of it, because if you're developing it and you're scared as shit, like that will transfer over.
Well, I was just gonna ask, so because again, as I've mentioned before, I didn't have very many opportunities to game on any sort of regular basis when I was younger. I mean, but I my understanding is that, like, at this point, having games with multiple possible endings wasn't nearly as big of a thing. Like, now it's commonplace, but like, it wasn't really a thing back then.
No,
right?
not in the 90s.
Not nearly as much. I mean, you had,
you were always going toward this one single ultimate outcome.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is I'm not really informed on this, but I know that like Chrono Trigger is one of the games that Chrono Trigger has like half a dozen endings, and I don't know if it wasn't necessarily commonplace. It was more like an extra treat. It was more like a, hey, and the thing is like back then you didn't have the internet, and I mean, you had the internet, but you didn't have you had magazines and stuff to kind of do this next time. Like if you want to go through again, try this and see something different. So it's like, you have multiple years where it's like, I bet people didn't even know that there were 3 or 4 other endings for this game.
True.
And I don't know, Resident Evil, as much as you want to shit on it, which I probably will, this game is really, really important for multiple reasons. He's 100% correct. It did create a genre. And, the thing is it was kind of already a genre, but it was a genre that was,
fringe.
It was placated. I love that word. I hope that's what I'm going for. But it was placated, and it was usually only for PC games, for point-and-click adventures. There was the Alone in the Dark and some game called, was it called Clock Tower?
Yeah.
Yeah, Clock Tower was a huge inspiration for this game.
I remember those games.
But it was it never got any further than that. Especially on consoles. Consoles horror games were very, very rare.
Besides, Resident Evil didn't really have it was terrifying, but it didn't have the same scare effect as other games that I played, like Outlast. But I remember there was a game that my friend had on Sega Saturn. I'm taking it all the way back there. The game was just called D. Just the letter D.
So you can give her the D.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't want to give this person in this game the D, but like, if you ever get curious, look it up. It was a survival horror game, and it was all so it was first person, but it was one of those first, like, you know how in Resident Evil 7, like, you can see your hands and you can look down and see your feet. Like, this was just entirely straightforward first person, and it was the creepiest, like, probably taking the cake over, like, Fear and Outlast and all of those games as far as, like the scare factor goes. Like, it was absolutely terrifying.
And the Fear games are fucking crazy.
And this is all the way back on Sega Saturn.
I love those games.
I didn't even have a Sega Saturn, but my friend had one, and this game was absolutely terrifying. But what I was going to say is, like, hearing about all this information, because this is stuff that I'd never really looked into, but hearing about all of this and then putting it to what I know about Resident Evil, like, sheds a whole new light on it. Like, it gives a whole new perception to that initial scene in the first Resident Evil when you go around the corner and you see your first zombie and he's just chowing down, and then he just turns his head.
We need to talk about how iconic that scene is.
And his, the side of his face is gone. He just turns and looks at you.
It's horrifying.
And stands up, and then it kicks out of the cutscene, and he's just shambling towards you, and you're just like, "Fuck, dude!" Pull out your gun with the terrible aim, and
even then, like, I remember the very first one. You didn't even have a gun; you had the knife.
Yes,
you had the knife, so you had to, like, cut that motherfucker down, and he wouldn't go down. And I'm just like, "Oh my god, die! Oh my god, die!
You
oh
knock
my god,
him on
die!"
the ground, and then you have to aim down and like stab down.
Horrible aiming system.
No, but that scene, like, super iconic in the Resident Evil.
It still
series.
scares me today.
Yeah,
like, it's,
and they have that in that remake on PS4, and it's like all updated. They actually have a bunch of new mechanics in that one too. Like, you have your knife, but you also have a little other knife that, like, if you get into a pinch, you can take it out, just stab them in the head with it, and then they'll go down instantly. But yeah, that scene's one of my favorite from any of the series.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a way to introduce the enemy of the game.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's good.
I mean, it just even that, in that sense, like, just introducing the constant enemy that you'll be fighting. It's just like,
and like the whole chunk before that. So, like, to preface, the game starts off and you are, as you went into it, like, you crash, like. And so you're in there, these crazy murders have been going on around this small town called Raccoon City and they're called the Arclight Mountains. And so they're going up there, the STARS team is going up there trying to find out, like, what's going on up here, like, just to check it out. And they end up running into a downed helicopter, right?
Yeah.
And so they're trying to find, we're trying to find our guy that was in this helicopter, And so they eventually run into, these horrifying dogs, that were a byproduct of what's going on in this mansion, right? You find out that in this mansion, it's kind of like, it's an undercover scene for this company that's creating all sorts of pharmaceuticals that are, like, way, way beyond human decency. You know what I mean? And it kind of just goes awry, and it touches everything. Like dogs, humans, to frogs and birds and snakes and shit, And these all kind of translate to really well-crafted enemies inside the game. Like, can we talk about that first moment when you're walking down that hallway and nothing's happening at all,
and
then all of a sudden, just like crash, a dog jumps through the window and just scares the piss out of you. You know what I mean? Like,
or in the very beginning of the game, because you're with your team, you're with Wesker, who will get into his stuff later, but you're with Wesker, and I believe you're with somebody else, I can't remember, but you're like, okay, we'll split, like, you go off and check this, we'll go off and check this.
Yeah.
And if you go to try and open
the front door,
the dogs will come
through,
and you have to take them out, and those are sons of bitches, dude, because they jump around, and your aim is limited because it's either this way or up or down.
Yeah, it's like, very unorthodox.
Yeah.
And that first moment, you run into these dogs, and then you're like, oh, there's a mansion, let's run. Like there's a place of shelter, let's run. And so they all end up in there. It's 4 people. It's Chris, Jill, Barry, and Wesker.
Yeah.
Right. And so Barry goes with Jill. It's depending on who you play as, right? So if you play as Jill, Barry goes with you, and then Chris goes off with Wesker. Right? No, Chris is missing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was gonna
Chris
say,
is missing.
Yeah.
And so Wesker decides to go off on his own, and then you're with Barry. Okay, yeah, that's right. So you walk into this mansion, and it's like horribly creepy, like old Victorian, and like there's a thunderstorm going off. Like atmosphere is awesome in this game. Like sound design, like not necessarily in the PS1 version, but in the remake, it's phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
and lighting and all that. So you're walking through this like little quarantined part of the mansion, and everything's super spooky and quiet, and then you walk in on that zombie just munching down on one of your teammates, one of your STARS members. Horrifying.
And he just looks to his left,
very slowly, just like looks over his shoulder,
and
the head like falls off because he's been it's so good. It's so good.
He's got from what I remember in the original, when he looks up at you, he's got like half of his lip is gone, so his teeth are exposed, and he's just like looks up at you. His like eye socket is like sunken in, and like part of it's missing.
Horrifying.
It's amazing, dude. Like just remembering that.
Resident Evil 2, or in Japan Biohazard 2, is a survival horror game developed and published by Capcom and released for the PlayStation in 1998. The player controls Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield, who must escape Raccoon City after its citizens are transformed into zombies by a biological weapon 2 months after the events of the original Resident Evil. The gameplay focuses on exploration, puzzles, and combat. The main difference from its predecessor are the branching paths, with each player character having unique storylines and obstacles.
This one is hands down my favorite entry in the game, alongside with Code X. Resident Evil Code X Veronica. That was like hands down one of the most terrifying Resident Evil games ever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because the atmosphere, you're on this isn't even Resident Evil 2, but you're like on this like almost Alcatraz like prison, and you have nowhere to go. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 is where it really gets to me here. This is one of my favorite games of all time. As a survival horror game, Resident Evil 2 features the same basic gameplay mechanics as its predecessor, Resident Evil. The player explores a fictional city while solving puzzles and fighting monsters. The game's 2 protagonists may be equipped with firearms, but very limited ammunition adds a tactical element to weapon use. On the status screen, the player can check the condition of their protagonists, use medicine to heal their wounds, and assign weapons. The character's current health can also be determined by their posture and movement speed. For example, the character will hold their stomach in pain if wounded, and will limp slowly if on the verge of death. The protagonists may carry a limited number of items and must store others in boxes placed throughout the game world, where they may later be retrieved.
Very important. That's very important. The item management in these games are like a key element of what makes these games so tense and scary. Is like, I don't know if I have the right thing. Because not only does your weapons and your ammo take up spaces, but also key items like keys and stuff to get in through like different doors and stuff. Like they all take up item slots. So like sometimes you have to make a hard decision and say, well, I can't take my shotgun because I have to take the key.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to make that decision between running and gunning or just running.
And another thing is, too, that back when these games were made, they didn't have, like, objective markers. Like, you had to remember, okay, this safe room is over here with these items, so I can try and come back here if I need to. It didn't, like, you literally had to rely off of an in-game map. And it showed you, at least in the remake of Resident Evil 1, it shows you what you've explored and what you haven't. In these ones, I don't think it did, but you have to essentially memorize. And I went back to playing the first Resident Evil, and I realized that, and I had no idea where the fuck I was or where I had to go. So I kind of just played for a minute, and then I was like, well, I don't know where I'm going, because there's no indicator where I have to go. But you literally rely off of a map in the game. There's no Like, your objective's over here, there's no markers or anything, and like that just adds to the atmosphere.
Each protagonist is joined by a support partner during the course of the story. These characters accompany the player in certain scenes and occasionally become playable. Certain rooms contain typewriters that the player may use to save the game, which is also another item that you have to carry around is the ink ribbons.
Yep.
You can't save the game unless you have ink ribbons.
Nope.
However, each save expends one of limited number of ink ribbons which players must collect in the game world. The graphics of Resident Evil 2 are composed of real-time generated and thus movable polygonal character and item models superimposed over pre-rendered backgrounds that are viewed from fixed camera angles, which I feel like is a lost art these days. I love the background art.
Oh, yeah.
I love that stuff. The game uses tank controls just like the first game, meaning that pressing up moves the character in the direction they face, down reverses them, and left and right rotates them, regardless of the perspective of the camera.
Development of Resident Evil 2 began 1 month after the completion of its predecessor in early 1996. The first footage of the game was shown at the V-Jump Festival in '96 in July. This early build, later dubbed Resident Evil 1.5 by producer Shinji Mikami, differed drastically from the release version in its scenario presentation and gameplay mechanics. Its plot followed the same basic outline as that of Resident Evil 2 and featured a zombie outbreak in Raccoon City 2 months after the events of the first game. In this version of the story, however, Umbrella had already been closed down as a consequence of their illegal experiments.
I feel bad for Raccoon City. They just can't catch a fucking break, man.
No.
Like, months later, are you fucking kidding? Like, that would
Right.
I would move.
Yeah,
it's time to move.
Yeah, it's over.
I feel like we're headed in the Umbrella direction, like, today. Like, because I feel like Umbrella is, like, big, like, I
Big
don't
pharma.
sound political, but yeah, big pharma. And I'm like, any day now.
Well, I mean, I read an article, because, I mean, the T-virus was first created as something that would, eliminate the T cells in people or whatever, if I'm remembering correctly. And I just remember reading something not too long ago where people are creating something to that effect.
Well, think about it. Umbrella, Monsanto. Coincidence? Three
I
syllables?
think not.
I think not.
And I'm just like, do you want zombies? Because that's how you get zombies.
We've seen this before. The development team sought to retain the level of fear from the original game and thus introduced to the narrative 2 new characters who lacked experience with terrifying situations. Leon S. Kennedy, largely identical to his persona in the final build, and Elza Walker, a college student and motorcycle racer vacationing in Raccoon City, her hometown. Unlike, who vacations in their hometown? Anyway. That seems like a shitty vacation.
Right.
Unlike the final version, the story paths of Leon and Elsa did not cross, and each playable character had 2 support partners instead of just 1. Leon received help from fellow police officer Marvin Branagh, right? Marvin Branagh, and a researcher named Linda, an early version of Ada, while Elsa was aided by Sherry Birkin and a man named John who appeared in Resident Evil 2 as a gun shop owner, Robert Kendo.
Can we also briefly touch on, in Resident Evil 2, the police officer that you try and help, and he comes back later and you have to shoot him down?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Wow.
Like, it's insane, because, like, so you come into the room that he's in the police station, which, like, a police station's not scary, but in and of itself, but in that game, like, when you get in there and there's, like, nothing happening, and it's just dark, all these doors are locked, but you finally run into this guy, and I think he gives you a key, am I right? Or he gives you something.
He gives you a key item.
Yeah, he gives you a key item.
Something to progress.
And you come back, and there's that cutscene where he just stands up and starts walking towards you, and you're just like, fuck, dude, and you're like, I have to shoot this guy even though he helped me.
It sucks, it sucks really bad.
And he was a black guy, too. The first one to go.
Yep, always.
Always. Yeah.
Capcom knew. Only a few assets from Resident Evil 1.5 could be recycled, as the principal locations in the final build were made to look more extravagant and artistic based on photographs taken of the interiors of Western-style buildings in Japanese cities. These environments were created with a software program called O2, and each background took 2 to 3 weeks to render. The maximum number of zombies displayed on the screen at one time was limited to 7, making it possible to use 450 polygons for the comparatively detailed models of Leon and Claire, which I didn't know they had a limit there, but if you compare that to like what DayZ is coming out with like the most number of zombies on screen, that's insane to me.
Yeah, Days Gone.
Or Days Gone. Sorry, DayZ is another game, but yeah, Days
Too
Gone.
many zombie games.
Like the footage from that, where there's just
where
like
it's
it's
just
like
a
a
horde.
tidal wave of zombies that almost looks like it's literally like a wave of water, but it's made out of zombies coming at you.
Yeah.
Compare that to when this game came out, where the limit was 7.
Yeah.
Like that's insane to me.
Something I want to just briefly touch upon too is I really dig the and for anybody that doesn't know, like, you know, PlayStation 1 games were incredibly revolutionary for video games, just because instead of sprite based games you had, like, you know, they used polygons to render more realistic body types essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is one of the only ones that, like, it seemed real to me. I don't know. It just, as a kid, it seemed real to me.
And another thing that we haven't touched on that I feel like is a key, very key component that they actually brought back in the older games was the door opening.
Oh, yeah.
Like, nothing is more terrifying than when you walk up to that first door, you can hear the, like, you can hear your character's heartbeat, and the door opens and you just move forward into that black screen. You're just, like, I'm gripping the controller. Just
You never know what's on the other end of that door.
No, you don't.
Several changes had to be made between the regional releases of Resident Evil 2. The North American versions contained a more violent game over screen, which were removed from the Japanese version of Biohazard 2. Resident Evil 2 was also made more difficult than its Japanese equivalent to prevent rentals from affecting U.S. sales.
Resident Evil 2 is probably one of the more iconic releases out of just the entire series. I think that game really solidified survival horror games.
If you look at the the progression, I mean, in my opinion, I would have to, like, my top 3 Resident Evil games: Resident Evil 2, Codex Veronica, and then 4.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I see it. But in, like, the game industry's eyes, I feel like it's 2 and then, like, right to 4.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Like,
Yeah.
Like, the differences between the two and the progression, like, but in Codex Veronica, there's this scene where you're walking out of a building and you're going down the stairs, and it's a cutscene, and it's, like, from the eyes of one of the zombie dogs, just, like, sitting underneath the stairs, and that scared the hell out of me. Like, but yeah, Resident Evil 2 always stands out as my favorite entry in the series by far.
For sure.
Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is a survival horror game developed by Capcom and released for the PlayStation in 1999. It is the third installment in the Resident Evil series and takes place around the events of Resident Evil 2. The story follows Jill Valentine and her efforts to escape from a city infected with a biological weapon. Choices through the game affect the story and ending. The game uses the same engine as its predecessors and features 3D models over pre-rendered backgrounds with fixed camera angles. The Nemesis was probably the scariest fucking dude.
Like, I would say next to Tyrant, but yeah, you get introduced into the main monster in this game called Nemesis, and, like, when you're fighting him at the end of the game, like, that was probably one of my favorite moments of that game. Like, nothing in Resident Evil 3 really stands out to me that much, but fighting Nemesis was, like, a blast.
Because it was just like he'd come out and you'd be like, all right, cool, a boss battle. And then, like, I don't know, for me anyway, like, when he first came out, it was like, oh, cool, another boss battle. And then he totally fucking obliterates the shit out of you, dude.
He's relentless. He'll beat you down really fast.
Like, just 2-3 hits and you're donezo, dude. And I was just like, holy fuck, how am I ever going to beat this? It just adds to that fear. Like, how the fuck am I going to beat this dude?
You know, and it's really kind of cool because it introduced these little moments where it was like, it would give you the option of like fight or flight.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, you can sit here and try, and you could immobilize him, like you could kill him essentially, like if you put enough bullets in him, like he will drop down and act like he's dead. But the thing about Nemesis and why he was so fucking terrifying is he could pop in at any moment. At any moment of the game, he could just like crash through a wall, or go through a window, or he'll just like randomly come around a corner that you're like, you know, nonchalantly like going about your way. He'll just like randomly come around that corner, and it's like, it's so terrifying. He's like, and you know, like you'll see him in a lot of different games, not only just Resident Evil, but like he kind of created that impassable boss that like continues to come back time and time again.
It was almost like encountering a serial killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was he was like the Michael Myers.
Like Michael Myers is huge inspiration for this guy.
I actually at GameStop I found I was on one of my many pop excursions.
Yeah.
And I found Leon, Claire, and Nemesis. And I saw Nemesis. He's one of the big like 6-inch ones.
Yeah, he's a big one.
And I saw that, and like that's like it was just instantly like flashbacks, like
yeah.
Oh god,
like
grabbed it.
Like you see him and all you hear is stars.
Yeah. Shot you back to that CRT TV sitting like 3 feet away from it. Yeah.
Oh. Throws it on the ground, elbow drops.
My god.
He's dead.
He's dead.
Someone put a stop to this.
So, originally planned as a spin-off featuring a different protagonist, Resident Evil 3 was designed to have a more action-oriented gameplay than the previous games. It features a large number of enemies and introduces the Nemesis creature, which, again, periodically pursues the player. Accompanied by a major marketing campaign, Resident Evil 3 received positive reviews and sold more than 3 million copies worldwide. Critics praised the game's detailed graphics and the Nemesis as an intimidating villain, but some criticized its short length and story. Resident Evil 3 was ported to Dreamcast, Windows, and GameCube to varying success.
And yeah, that was one of my gripes with that game, was that it was like super short compared to the other two.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember I played it on PlayStation, and I remember it just wasn't very long. Like I got through it and I was like, wait a minute, the other 2 games that I played were way longer than this, you know?
Yeah.
I was going down the development rabbit hole the other day with these 2 games, and Code Veronica and this game kind of have a conflicting development schedule, and I can't really remember what happened, but I remember is that they wanted to, because Code Veronica came out on the PS2, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they were still developing 3. I think... No, what it was is that they were developing Code Veronica that was going to be 3. And then they were like, all right, you know, this is taking too much time and we need to jump generations. You know, we need to go to PS2. So they originally, that's why it's so short, is because they took all the assets for Code Veronica and took it and put it in that PS2 game, and then turned around and said, all right, well, we'll just use, you know, regular assets and add some new, you know, some flair to the old system on the PS1 and put in that into number 3.
Yeah. Gameplay has the player controlling the protagonist, Jill Valentine, from a third-person perspective to interact with the environment and enemies. The player takes control of another character for a brief portion of the game. To advance, the player explores a city while avoiding, outsmarting, and defeating enemies. The player can interact with the environment in several ways, such as opening doors, pushing objects, or climbing obstacles. Scattered throughout the city are weapons, ammunition, and other items which can be collected and put into the player's inventory. Items can be examined, used, or combined with others, and the inventory is limited to a certain number of slots, and the player must often move items from the inventory to a storage box located in special rooms to manage space, which I love that they held on to that throughout those first 3 games. Even, you know, games further down the road, they kept that same key element. Mm-hmm. Like in Resident Evil 7, you have your inventory, but you don't, you know, you've also got the item management box that you can use, but that, I mean, it's challenging, but it's fair. Like,
now, I do, and I don't know if it's this series or not, so I'm sure you guys can tell me, but I do remember a game where once you started kind of getting to the point where you're about to be overburdened with items that your player moves slower. Is that?
Not
No,
Resident Evil,
that's
no.
What is that?
That's Fallout.
Oh, is it?
That's
Fallout,
like a Bethesda
Skyrim.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's it just won't let you put it in your.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
like if those slots are taken up, then
Right.
You're either
See, because
dropping something
in those
or-
games you can carry as much things as you want. You'll just be
Right.
walking the entire time. But in this
Okay.
one,
Like
if you don't
barely
have
walking.
if you don't have the room, then it literally won't let you hold on.
See,
to it.
and I kind of like that realism because, like, for example, with World of Warcraft, yeah, you have a limited number of slots, but like you could, I mean, if you wanted to, you could just be walking around with your bag full of like mounts that you haven't clicked on to learn yet.
Yeah.
So you could just be walking around with a bag full of giant beasts and like you're fine.
Yeah.
So and then, there's like as long as you've got the slots for it, you can carry fucking anything.
Video games.
You know?
carry all these fucking horses.
Exactly.
Resident Evil 3 was developed by Capcom and produced by Shinji Mikami once again, who worked on the original Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2. After the release of Resident Evil 2, Capcom was working on multiple Resident Evil projects, and a team led by Hideki Kamiya developed what was planned to be the next main installment. According to Resident Evil 3 scenario writer Yasuhisa Kawamura.
You're getting like all the fucky stuff.
Sons of bitches.
Getting all the names.
The intended game was loosely set on a luxurious cruise liner and had a general plot where Hunk, who is the code name of a special agent of the Umbrella Security Service who was the leader of the ill-fated Alpha Team in the employment of Umbrella, was attempting to bring back a sample of the G-Virus featured in Resident Evil 2. However, Capcom realized that the game would not be complete in time for a PlayStation release due to Sony's announcement of the PS2, like what I was saying. The project was cancelled. As Capcom did not want fans to wait some years for a new game, the company promoted one of its other projects as the third main canonical game while Kamiya's team moved on to Resident Evil 4. So, yeah, for sure.
Resident Evil 3 uses the same game engine as its predecessors. The environments consist of 2D pre-rendered backgrounds, while moving objects such as enemies and some interactive elements consist of 3D polygon graphics. The developers chose this technique because having full 3D graphics would not allow them to create graphically rich and detailed environments. According to the project supervisor Yoshiki Okamoto, the number of polygons allocated for the enemies would not be sufficient. We did not want to have blocky pixelated zombies. Interaction with the environment was improved so that the player could shoot objects like explosive barrels to damage enemies. Developers also added more variety of zombies who can take the form of policemen, doctors, and ordinary citizens, among others.
So, unlike previous Resident Evil games, which normally take place specifically inside buildings, Resident Evil 3 takes place in Raccoon City. The developers noted that the city setting allowed them to create more varied environments, obviously. Capcom also decided to give the game a more action-oriented style, which resulted in the beloved 180-degree turn. Ah, yeah. And the introduction of a dodge feature so that the player can avoid enemy attacks. Additionally, the developers designed the game so that up to 9 enemies can appear at the same time now, and improved their artificial intelligence to hunt the player up and down stairs. The eponymous nemesis creature was inspired by the liquid metal T-1000 Terminator from Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Check it out if you haven't already.
If you haven't seen Terminator 2, you don't deserve to be listening to us. I'm sorry.
You do need to up your nerd credentials if you have not. According to Mikami, I wanted to introduce a new kind of fear into the game, a persistent feeling of paranoia.
And my God, did they do that.
Oh, what a feeling it is.
That I gotta say, that 180-degree turn, though, it became a huge, huge element of that game.
It's like we were talking about when, you just nonchalantly just running up a corridor and the nemesis just, turns the corner. I was always like, like I'd get stiff and I'd like do the 180. like my arms would stiffen, my butthole would pucker, and I'd like immediately like 180 and run away.
Night, keep your butthole tight.
He was very scary.
He was definitely, scary. And I can see that T-1000 relentless chase. Yeah, you know what I mean? Sure.
Oh, hell yeah. No, I'm like I said, that turn became almost mandatory in this one and in the one we're about to talk about now, which is Resident Evil 4.
Yes.
Known in Japan as Biohazard 4 and arguably the best Resident Evil in the series, is a survival horror game developed and published by Capcom, the sixth major installment in the Resident Evil series. It was originally released for the GameCube in 2005. Players control U.S. government special agent and returning character Leon S. Kennedy, who is sent on a mission to rescue the U.S. president's daughter, whom has been kidnapped by a cult. In rural Spain, Leon fights hordes of villagers infected by a mind-controlling parasite and reunites with the spy Ada Wong. This takes me back to that episode we had where we were talking about what they were saying throughout the game, and you were like translating it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't remember our last conversation about it, if you haven't played Resident Evil 4, you're in a remote town in Spain for the most part, and the enemies that are being controlled by this cult are coming after you, and they're saying stuff to you, which when I first played the game, I was like, okay, maybe they're just making it sound like they're in Spain. But no, if you actually look it up, there's an article that I found that each phrase that they say is actually translated, and they're actually saying like the creepiest shit to you, but it's in Spanish. And it adds that much more of an atmosphere to the game.
And when we were talking about it, I was like, I felt like I had a leg up on the competition because it was just like, whenever there was one behind me, it would be like, behind you, you idiot, and I'd be like, oh shit.
But I feel like that would make it even worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
that would make it even creepier.
Like the tension was definitely there because I'm over there like concentrated on shooting zombies, and then here comes one that's like, I'm behind you, you imbecile, and I'm like, oh shit, and turn around, kill him.
This game is very, very near and dear to my heart. I love this game a lot. So the funny story is I actually lied to my mom about this game. I told her, I was like, which is really, really hard to do because it's called Resident Evil. It's like, how evil can you get? Like, how bad sounding can you get for a video game? And I can't remember exactly what I told her, but I was like, hey, I really want this game, and it's not bad per se. It has violent moments, but it's not like, because I came from the family where it was like, if it had that big M on the box, it was a no-go for you. You know what I mean? Like, even like teen games, like I remember this debacle going back to Kingdom Hearts where it was E10 and up for Kingdom Hearts 2. And I remember, like, I don't even know why I had to do this because it wasn't even that big of a deal, but on the back it said use of alcohol and mild blood. And in that game, there's a moment, because there's a Pirates of the Caribbean level where they do the blood on the coin.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean? And that was the only blood of the entire game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And the alcohol was
Jack Sparrow.
That's the Sparrow guy passively mentioning rum. Like, that's all it was.
You should have gone with the dodgeball defense. What? Not mixed together.
And so I don't know how I did it, but I thank God every day that I managed to do it. Convince my mom to let me rent this game. That's all it was. And the funny thing is that I rented this game so many times that I probably bought it 3 or 4 times.
Similarly to that, I came across Mortal Kombat in kind of the same way. That game came out on Super Nintendo, and I was trying so hard to get it. And, I told my parents that you could turn the blood off.
Yeah, I think that was something that I said too. I was like, you can turn the blood off, Mom. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
you hear that, Kim? Your boy's over there lying to you.
I lied so hard to get
on the opposite side of that, though, I remember, this is not remotely gaming related, just the name related. So they're kind of old, but you all know Bare Naked Ladies, right?
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
So I back in the day, I bought a Bare Naked Ladies CD, and my mom saw it and freaked out, and I was like, no, it's not what you think. They're actually a nice, really normal band.
Songs,
they're not even remotely perverted or gross. No, seriously, listen to it. They're just a nice, like, fun-loving
Family
band.
band.
Like they're so not bad.
Yeah.
But it was just hilarious trying as a teenager to explain to my mom that Bare Naked Ladies is great. They're fine.
Plus, you would have to think about who the fuck would refer to it as bare naked ladies. Like,
Right.
yeah, no, Mom, I was not looking at bare naked ladies.
Mom, I love Bare Naked Ladies. Why won't you let me have Bare Naked Ladies?
Resident Evil 4 garnered critical acclaim with praise for its narrative, gameplay, voice acting, and characters. It received multiple Game of the Year awards for 2005 and was seen as a successful cross-platform hit that influenced the evolution of the survival horror and third-person shooter genres. This game's everywhere. It's like The Last of Us for third-person shooters.
Yep,
Like,
it really is.
like Gears of War was influenced by Resident Evil 4, which is crazy to think about. It pioneered the over-the-shoulder third-person view perspective in video games. It is widely considered one of the very best video games of all time.
That switch from your tank controls and stuff in previous Resident Evils to that was like a huge, refreshing drink of water.
It was revolutionary.
It was, because
for the series.
I remember I played that game on GameCube for the first time when it came out. It wasn't right when it came out, but I remember playing that game, starting it up, and when you get out of the Jeep, in the very first of the game, you start walking, I'm like, oh, this is new. And I was walking, I like figured out how to aim the gun. You have your little laser, and I was like, oh shit! Like, I just was like, this is not like any of the other Resident Evil games.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's very different, and it's like almost kind of jarring how different these games are. Like, gone are the camera angles, and gone are the tank controls, and like all this stuff. It's all out the window. This is a completely new game. You're not even fighting zombies necessarily.
And
like,
how relieved were you, any of you, to find out that that's the camera angle they're going to be using for the Resident Evil 2 remake?
yeah.
Holy fuck, dude.
I kind of
combine
wish
that camera angle
yeah.
with the gameplay of Resident Evil 2, but like revamped.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah, it's going to add
favorite.
all new horror to it. It's going to
Yeah.
be... Oh, I'm so excited.
I kind of hope that there's DLC where you can play as the pointed camera.
Yeah.
Like, I just hope. Like,
Yeah.
it's so dumb, and I'm totally alright if they don't. But that would be kind of cool just to be able to do that.
I could see it something that they do, like just to say, hey, you guys are a fan of the series, here's this like little extra tidbit for you.
Yeah.
Or like after you beat the game, you can unlock that.
Oh,
you
it's
can
like a hard
unlock
mode?
tank mode. Yeah.
That'd be badass.
The player controls the protagonist Leon S. Kennedy from a third-person perspective. The gameplay focuses on action and shootouts, which feature some horror elements. The camera is placed behind Leon and zooms in for an over-the-shoulder view when aiming a weapon, or a first-person view when aiming with a sniper rifle. There is no crosshair for firearms. Instead, every firearm has a laser sight. Unlike previous games where players can only shoot straight up or down, players have more options. For example, shots to the feet can cause enemies to stumble, and shots to the arms can make them drop their weapons. Players can shoot down projectiles like thrown axes or scythes.
That was huge.
I believe
Big.
that's Skithus.
Like the fact that you could knock stuff out of the air with your knife, even. Like when I first did that, I was like, what the fuck, dude? But no, the fact that you could go from shooting a gun in third person, then when you get that sniper rifle, you zoom in and you can just hit anything, or even, you can shoot at their legs and run up to them and like melee them, like do a crazy melee attack and knock them down. Like, that was never before seen.
I was going to say, let us not forget the idea that when you shoot them in a certain area of the body, it gives you a prompt to press a certain button, and you can, it's like crowd control, like, because it's a Capcom game, it's very Japanese, it's very over the top, obviously. So it's like it does this thing where like he'll do like a roundhouse kick, and it will send everyone that's in the general vicinity like back like a solid 5 feet, and it's funny because
So it's kind of like WWE.
Yeah, just like a little brush back.
well, I mean, and the thing is that like even that little moment creates tension. Like the first time you run up into that village and you're being completely overwhelmed with 10-15 people at one time, and you do that one move, it's like there's a moment where you shoot someone in the shin, right? They'll go down, and that's a way to initialize one of these moves, right? You have this like little like 2 or 3 second moment where you're like sprinting up to this one guy. You're like ignoring everyone around you just so you can hit that button and then send everyone flying, and it will give you a moment of reprieve to like think of your next move. Brilliant. It's so good.
There's also the first moment I remember this happening for the first time when you shoot somebody in the head, and instead of them dying, a big fucking just plant thing comes out of their head, and then you have to worry about that bullshit. Like, okay, now I gotta shoot
what a
this
reveal that was too. Like you're in this like kind of like really weird cavern, and it's raining like crazy, right? And the thing is that so they're not zombies in this game. They're not. Have you played this game, Derek?
This is the game that you watched your buddy play.
Well, like
Resident Evil 4?
Oh, yeah. But it was only a small section.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not really zombies in this game. They're infected by this thing called Las Plagas.
Yeah.
Is that what
Las
it's called?
Plagas.
So it's essentially it's a chemical weapon.
Okay.
But it essentially like just reforms everything in the body to like and gives away to this parasite, right? And so eventually this parasite, long enough, will just take over the host. Mm-hmm. And just like so like there's a mechanic in the game where you can pop heads, like if you get a headshot and you get a certain amount of shots in the head, their head will just explode like in this crazy fashion, right? But you get into this point of the game where and it almost, it's not 50-50, but it's pretty damn close, where it's like, if you pop their head, there's like a split moment where something might grow out of where their head used to be, and now it's like this like crazy harder enemy. Like they get double health, like their attacks are crazy hard.
You have to shoot that thing that protrudes from them too. Like,
you can't. Well, you can shoot them in the body, but it takes like twice as much ammo.
Yeah,
it's insane. And so, and then there's this one moment where deeper in the game, like where this thing is a one-hit kill. It will kill you in what like the giant like tapeworm thing.
Oh yeah.
If you get caught and he'll munch your dome off. Like you're gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so Resident Evil 4 adds context-sensitive controls. Based on the situation, players can interact with the environment, kicking down a ladder, jumping out of a window, dodging an attack, or executing a finishing move on weakened enemies. There are also quick-time events in which the player must press buttons indicated on screen to execute actions, such as dodging a falling boulder or wrestling an enemy to stay alive. These are often incorporated into the game's many boss fights, in which the player must avoid instant kill attacks. So you've got to so this is timing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so this is like, because is this kind of where that comes from? Because that's a staple in every game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that every game
it's
now
definitely like one of the first to do it. I don't know if this is where it like comes from, but it's definitely one of the first games
implemented it in a way that other developers looked at it and said, holy shit, that's a great idea, let's do that in our next game.
How fucking finesse and superb was jumping out of a window though.
Oh, like, dude,
it was just
no fall damage at all.
Just land. It does like a superhero land.
Yeah,
like, that's what he does. He jumps out, lands. He's like on one knee, his hands on the ground, like that. Doing that, like I did that every opportunity that I had.
I mean, that goes without saying. Leon S. Kennedy, coolest Resident Evil character ever.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Like, holy shit, this guy just oozes cool.
Yeah.
Like, he's so fucking
He's
rad,
definitely
dude.
like the action hero of the game.
In an interview with Game Informer, Shinji Mikami explained his decision to shift to a new gameplay system is due to the feeling that the older system is, quote, more of the same after playing Resident Evil 0. He says that he only felt nervous once more when playing with the newer system. Speaking for the team, game producer Hiroyuki Kobayashi mentioned how the staff was tired of the same feeling and how some got bored and moved on to other projects. In addition to that, the producer also felt that the older format was stuck in a cookie-cutter mold and described it as shackles holding us down.
I loved the fact that they revamped it all. Like, just sent it to a different location, added different, types of things, and like the language even. Las Plagas means the plague.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. the people, the ganados, translates to the cattle.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's perfect
awesome.
because they're all being controlled by Sadler.
Yeah,
It's very sad. Like, there's this moment during the end credits where it's doing those like hand-drawn Japanese-ish like moments, and it's very, very sad because it's these, you know, it's these images of what the village was like before Sadler had gotten a hold of them. Like, they're just this humble little village of all these people, and then all of a sudden, you know, in the next frame, someone's acting a little weird, and they're like really sick, and one of them's in a bed, you know, and then the next frame is there's this guy that just randomly shows up in town and is like in this like preacher pose, you know, like preaching this gospel to these people, which, you know, later to be revealed is, you know, one of Sadler's henchmen, you know, like teaching him like, hey, Sadler's the true Lord or whatever, you know what I mean? And then there's this horrifying image of a guy laying in bed and his head's popped, and it's one of the Las Plagas like sprouts out of his head. And it's really sad because it's like, these people didn't deserve this. And then almost in the same way, it might have just been me, but like, I felt an immense sense of guilt because like you go through and you slaughter these people, like, because you know, it's self-defense, but it's like, these were normal people. These were people that were just hardworking, trying to get by people.
And going back to the pre-Sadler, like, that's you kind of get that, like, you don't know what's going on when you play this game for the first time. You walk up to the village, like, you see them, it looks like they're just doing, you know, work, like, you know, it looks like they're like shoveling hay.
They're just normal.
And then you get in closer and you see that effigy burning in the middle of the town square, and you're like, this isn't normal. Like, and then eventually when you have to take the rest of them out and the bell rings and they all go into the church, you get a chance to walk around the village and you see like the bodies like strung up of like previous like police officers.
Yeah,
and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
dude?
it's very eerie. It's very creepy, and it's really sad.
Yeah, nuts. The upgrading system in the game too was kind of cool. Go into that guy. Hey, stranger,
what are you buying? What are you selling? Did you ever just kill that guy after you bought shit? Just knife him and he just goes, ugh.
And just dies.
Like, he doesn't even protest.
No.
All right, well, I guess this is what we're doing.
But sometimes he'll like drop some cool shit.
Yeah.
What are you selling? My body? You got a problem with it?
I love it. I love everything about that guy. He's so funny.
And the best part about, like, in my opinion, about the game is they give you this, like, enormous replay value because if you play the game enough times, you get these fucking OP guns, like the Chicago typewriter.
Oh, dude,
you just go through and just
cannon.
Mow people down with unlimited ammo. Like, at that point, it's just like, this is just going to be a fun playthrough.
I can't tell you how many times I've played through this game all the way through. Oh, it's so good.
I might go home and reinstall it on my PS4.
It's so
fun. Same. Off to Africa.
For better or for worse. Off to Africa. Resident Evil 5, known in Japan as Biohazard 5, is the third-person shooter video game developed and published by Capcom and released in 2009. It is the 7th major installment in the Resident Evil series and was announced in 2005, the same year its predecessor Resident Evil 4 was released. Resident Evil 5 was released for the PS3 and Xbox 360 consoles in March 2009 and for Microsoft Windows in September of that year.
As in its predecessor, Resident Evil 4, players can upgrade weapons with money and treasure collected in-game and heal themselves with herbs, but cannot run and shoot at the same time. New features include infected enemies with guns and grenades, the ability to upgrade weapons at any time from the inventory screen without having to find a merchant, and equipping of weapons and items in real time during gameplay. Each player can store 9 items. Unlike the previous games, the item size is irrelevant. Herb or a grenade launcher each occupy 1 space, and 4 items may be assigned to the D-pad. The game also features fewer puzzles than previous titles. And I thought that was cool with the inventory.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
where it was just one slot.
So part of that is wrong because you can't upgrade from the inventory screen. The only time that you can upgrade is like those little moments of reprieve in between chapters. So it's like when you're going in and it's right before the start of a chapter, there's your merchant. There's where you can buy guns, you can buy stuff like that, and you can also upgrade weapons, and you can also sell items that you found in the game.
You can transfer items to your counterpart.
That's true, yeah. I always use Sheva as a pack mule. Yep. Like, you are my extra set of inventory slots, like, and that's all you're good for.
And then I always felt bad if she didn't have a weapon. Like, and I have the TMP, I've got the hand cannon, I've got everything, and like she gets into a pinch, and I'm just like, all right, sorry.
She's like, guess I'll fucking die then.
Yeah, guess I'll die.
Should I just go fuck myself? I'll just be over here fucking myself.
Here, take this pistol with you.
With 9 bullets.
You got a knife, don't you?
Don't forget to save one for yourself. So Resident Evil 5 is the first game in the Resident Evil series designed for 2-player cooperative gameplay. The first player controls Chris Redfield, a former member of STARS and current member of the BSAA, which is the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance. And a second player can control Sheva Alomar, who is introduced in this game. If a person plays alone, Alomar is controlled by the game's artificial intelligence, and when the game has been completed once, there's an option to make Alomar the primary character. 2-player mode is available online or split screen with a second player using the same console.
Hold on!
Sheva infuriated me at times.
God damn it, bitch! I gotta go back and save your ass again.
The reprieve for that though is if like the second that you like got to that stage where you couldn't do anything, she would instantly just come in and like
she's almost like
pat you on the back and revive you.
Or
like,
whenever you were like whenever you were in a struggle, she'd like come out of nowhere and roundhouse kick the zombie or whatever.
She's competent, but she's still like artificial intelligence is maybe given a little more than it deserves. It's not really
a little generous.
It's not really intelligent at all. Like I don't know. I mean,
as we're moving, forward into this, I wanted to bring up as far as like iconic scenes in Resident Evil games go. That first when you're walking through the town and you get to the first infected, and it's the cutscene of him just like everything's just happening to him.
It's cool.
His
too.
eyes start bleeding, and then like you guys have to shoot him down. Like when I first saw that, I was like, what the fuck, dude? I was like,
it's scary. Yeah,
I was like, how are you gonna? What's gonna happen in like this town in Africa? Like, I saw what happened in 4 in like,
Toto
Spain.
ain't here, bro.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna talk about that moment when you're like, you don't have any guns. You're just like walking through the village, and everyone just thinks you're just a person.
Oh yeah, and there's all that shit going on.
There's like something in a burlap sack, and they're beating the holy hell out of it. Like there's like several people around this, and they're just like kicking
and you walk past, and they just stop and look at you.
Yeah, as soon as you get next to them, they just stop.
Yeah,
and they just look at you, and they just like watch you where you're going. It's very scary.
Tense, just like all that
very
tension.
Tense.
Very. A version of the Mercenaries minigame, which debuted in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, is included in Resident Evil 5. This minigame places the player in an enclosed environment with a time limit. Customized weapons cannot be used, and players must search for weapons, ammunition, and time bonuses while fighting a barrage of enemies to score as many points as possible within the time limit. The minigame multiplayer mode was initially offline only. A release day patch needed to be downloaded to access the online multiplayer modes. Mercenaries is unlocked when the game's story mode has been completed.
And I had the most fun doing that.
Oh yeah.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
The Mercenaries game in Resident Evil 5 was probably the most fun out of all of the ones that had it.
It was. It really was. I loved playing through that.
Resident Evil 5 was developed by Capcom and produced by Jun Takeuchi, who directed Onimusha, Warlords, and produced Lost Planet Extreme Condition. Keiji Inafune, what? I didn't know this. Keiji Inafune, for anybody that didn't know, is the father of Mega Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Keiji Inafune, promotional producer for Resident Evil 2 and executive producer of the PlayStation 2 version of Resident Evil 4, supervised the project. Production began in 2005, and in its peak, over 100 people were working on the project, which is kind of small for today's standards.
Yeah.
That's still a lot of people. In February 2007, some members of Capcom's Clover Studio began working on Resident Evil 5, while others were working on Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles, which debuted for the Wii, which was really cool. It was kind of like this on-rails shooter game.
Yeah, I remember that. Those were really fun. Did you ever play, I can't remember what it was called, in the same aspect on the Wii? It was like in the West, and you had like a samurai sword.
Red Steel.
Yes.
Red Steel was cool. That was like one of the only games that like actually kind of worked.
Yep.
With the motion control. Yasuhiro Anpo, who worked as a programmer on the original Resident Evil, directed Resident Evil 5. He was one of several staff members who worked on the original game to be involved in Resident Evil 5's development.
I loved how your eyes lit up after Inafune.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I love Inafune.
Speaking of Mega Man, live action Mega Man.
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it.
I saw it and I tagged him in it complete. I was just like, hey, look at this.
Yeah, that's not gonna. Yeah. That's
Did you guys see the Mario 64 thing I posted on the page earlier?
Yeah.
That looks super cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am so in with that. I'm so down.
While previous Resident Evil games are mainly set at night, the events of Resident Evil 5 occur almost entirely during the day. The decision for this was a combination of the game being set in Africa and advances in hardware improvements, which allowed increasingly detailed graphics. On the subject of changes to Valentine and Redfield's appearance, production director Yasuhiro Anpo explained that designers tried to preserve their image and imagined how they would have changed over the passage of time. Their new designs retained the characters' original colors, green for Redfield and blue for Valentine. Elamar was redesigned several times during production, though all versions tried to emphasize a combination of feminine attraction and the strength of a fighting woman. The Majini, which is the Swahili word for Marines, were designed to be more violent than the Ganado enemies in Resident Evil 4.
I just gotta say that if they were designed to show the character's progression in the passing of time, Chris Redfield was obviously hitting the weights every single fucking day because his arms were bigger than my life dreams. Like, god damn it. Like, they were huge.
I swear to yeah, dude, seriously, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna be fighting more zombies, so swole is the goal.
And the whole time
Swole
when
is
you're
the goal.
when you're walking through and he's got his pistol up, like you can see
just like flexing.
Like
He's like constantly flexing.
Yeah.
Size is the prize.
he was huge
for
in that
Chris
game.
Redfield.
It's just funny because, you know, it says feminine attraction and the strength of a fighting woman for Alamar. Sheva is, you know, quite attractive. I'll say that.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought it was kind of funny because it was like the stereotype of Japanese in video games. Like, Chris is gigantic and Sheva is just like this perfectly slender, you know, perfect bust, perfect ass. Like, it's like, this is not realistic at all. And, you know, like, I'm not one for sticklers and be like, oh, you know, it's not realistic in my, you know, game about zombies. You know, I'm not like that.
He hit the weights and she did yoga.
I just thought it was funny. Very, very weird design.
Not to mention her British accent?
Yeah.
Australian. Yeah. Not even like South African or anything. It was straight up like Australian.
Made no sense at all.
That's as good as an Australian Wolverine.
How many times are we going to make that joke?
As many as I can for the rest of my life.
Off to Serbia.
Resident Evil 6, known in Japan as Biohazard 6, of course, is a third-person shooter game developed and published by Capcom. The ninth main game in the Resident Evil series, it was released for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in October of 2012, and for Windows in March the following year. Players control Leon S. Kennedy, Chris Redfield, Jake Muller, and Ada Wong, who confront the force behind a worldwide bioterrorist attack. Each character has unique abilities and styles.
You know, it's
There's no period there.
You knew it was ending.
Resident Evil 6, like, you had this huge train of momentum, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 just fell so short.
I didn't even play that game.
Yeah, you want to know something funny?
Yeah.
I didn't even play it.
I
I'd
didn't
never
even
played this game.
Okay, so I can mention... So each... Like, the whole story is kind of cool. You might want to at least check it out because Troy Baker is Jake.
Yeah.
But, so, basically, there's each person's story. So you have Leon's story, which is, like, the best because it's taking you back to, zombies. You've got Chris, who's, still dealing with these BOWs from what he used to fight,
Yeah.
And then Jake and I believe it's Sherry are on their own little path. But, like, each story, like, diverges into each other, like, towards the end. So it's really cool how they kind of, like, meet up. But, like, the only memorable gameplay is from Leon's story. Like, Chris's story just seems, like, forced and, like, tedious. Jake and Sherry is, like, a different thing. It's not that great, but it's kind of cool. But, like, I would go through and play, like, Leon's story over and over again. But everything else about the game was just, like, I don't know, it just, in my eyes, it fell super short and just seemed like everything was forced and just put together.
Yeah, hearing all the reviews for it and people being like, "Oh, I mean, it's a good game and all," but and I was just like, I'm probably just not going to play this.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like, it's a decent play. Like, I have all of the Resident Evil games in my Steam library, so, like, I'll reinstall them and I'll play them here and there, but 6 was definitely, like, my least favorite and least memorable, save for Leon's story, which was still, like, really fun.
Because Leon's the badass.
Yeah, dude. Exactly.
Like, every time we say Leon, all I can think of is Leon Phelps.
What's up, baby? I'll buy you a fish sandwich.
One day I'll play this game. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. It's one of those games where it's like, if I'm feeling a little extra masochistic, I'll end up playing it. But
I feel like hurting myself.
Then I'll play it. But
Resident Evil 6 was conceptualized in 2009 and entered full development the following year under Resident Evil 4 producer Hiroyuki Kobayashi. It had a development staff of more than 600, making it Capcom's largest production. The game received mixed reviews. Some reviewers praised the game's storyline and themes, but the interwoven campaigns and departure from survival horror received criticism. With over 9.8 million copies sold, it is the third best-selling Capcom game. It was released for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One with all downloadable content.
Which is crazy that it's the third best-selling game in the series.
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy to think about how, what was it? Was it 4 that had a staff of 100? Is that what we were just talking about?
Yeah.
It went from 100 to 600,
Yeah.
and you still flopped it like that? Like, I don't know. It's, like I said, like, it's definitely a play to check out.
Yeah.
If you can play through the whole game, because once you finish, because you can go and choose which storyline you want to play first.
Yeah.
So you go, like, oh, I want to play this one, and then after you finish that one, you can pick the next one. But it's just monotonous when you're playing as Chris's story, because you're like, I just did this in 5.
Yeah.
Like, I've already done all this shit. But
Resident Evil 6 allowed players to select between 4 scenarios with interwoven storylines. Each scenario follows one of the 4 main protagonists: Leon S. Kennedy, Chris Redfield, Jake Muller, and Ada Wong. The player characters from each scenario will have their own partners, whom are controlled by either artificial intelligence once again, or another player via local or online multiplayer. In addition, each scenario features a different playstyle. For example, some player characters are more vulnerable to attacks, whereas others are more resilient. Each central character has unique abilities, which vary from increased reload times and carrying more ammunition. The game presents new innovations and gameplay mechanics such as rolling in any direction and running while shooting and sliding.
that, I will give props to Resident Evil 6, because when I was reading up on the game before it came out, as soon as I saw, like, moving and shooting, I was like, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't, like, when you would try and do that in Resident Evil 5, it was just a standstill in 4 and 5, but, like they introduced this mechanic in 6 where you could run, or like you could jump backwards, lay on the ground and shoot up, or you could run and slide and like shoot up, and you could shoot while moving.
Yeah.
And that was a big mainstay in the game too. But I mean, given that, it's just kind of not my favorite at all.
So every time anybody says Ada Wong, all I can think is, if Ada Wong, I don't want to be white.
Stop it. Stop it.
Stop it.
Yo, can we give Ada Wong like her credit? Ada Wong is one of the flyest females.
She's a bad bitch.
She really is.
I remember the first time I saw her, I was like, oh.
And that well, I guess you couldn't really see it in PS1, but on Resident Evil 4 when she had that
slit
the garter where she held her gun,
like,
and when she first encounters him in 4, when he it's right before you walk out of that room, and I can't remember his name, the big dude with the beard throws you up against the wall, and you walk out, and Ada talks to you, and then you turn around to say something to her, and she's like grappled the fuck out of there. She's already gone.
She's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had $1 for every time a bearded dude threw me against a wall, I mean,
right, I'd have $1.
I would have $0.
I'd have 50 cents.
He almost did it.
Figure that out.
He almost did it, and you were able to get out. Yep. The game also features a 4-player cooperative mode. When playing in single-player mode, the player can allow another player to join in online at any time. While performing certain actions, quick-time events may occur in which the player must follow on-screen prompts by pressing buttons or manipulating joysticks within a limited amount of time. A new feature comes in the form of tablets. Players may consume them in order to recover health, and more can be produced by mixing herbs. If one player runs out of health, that player will have a short time to try to defend themselves while their partners attempt to revive them. If any non-AI players are killed, gameplay will resume at the last checkpoint. The game features several primary enemies, including zombies and the newly introduced Javo, which is derived from the Serbian word for devil. Unlike zombies, Javo are able to interact with each other to plan an attack, use weapons, and heal themselves.
I think the tablet thing was kind of cool too, because you could use that shit on the fly instead of having to go into a menu and use like your herbs or whatever. You could just you could like assign it and then just push like the left direction button, and like they just like you'd pop it and then they would be healed. So that was kind of nice if you got into a pinch.
Resident Evil 6 was conceptualized soon after the release of Resident Evil 5 and entered full development in 2009. Resident Evil 5 producer Jun Takeuchi said that he considered a completely new system for Resident Evil 6, but ruled out his involvement. In March 2009, co-producer Masachika Kawata stated that the new installment was not decided upon, but admitted that it could take Capcom 4 to 8 years to develop. Kawata later claimed that the new game would be drastically different from its predecessors. The game was directed by Eiichiro Sasaki, who also directed the Resident Evil Outbreak series.
The development of the game was led by Hiroyuki Kobayashi, who was stated by Capcom to be aiming to deliver the most impressive Resident Evil title ever, both in terms of scope and production values. Capcom also asserted that the game was meant to take an approach to evolve the series. The staff wanted to give the game a new setting, with Sasaki wishing to place it in China. While the country of Edonia was not modeled from any country in Europe, it was given an Eastern European theme. According to Famitsu, the character of Jake Muller was designed to be someone today's young people can empathize with. The game had a development staff of more than 600, making it Capcom's largest production to date.
Craziness.
God. Someone today's young people can empathize with. How lame can you be?
The fuck out of here.
He kind of fit that persona.
Just make him like relatable. That's all you have to do. Like,
well, they kind of did. Like, he was kind of made like really like wisecracking and angsty. Like, I liked his character in the game, and like and Troy Baker pulled it off to a T, like he always does.
I feel like that was just a really clinical, wordy, verbose way to say they wanted to make him relatable.
Yeah.
Which they did. I mean, like, he was kind of, like I said, he's kind of angsty and cracked a bunch of jokes in like serious situations, so he was kind of like a reprieve from what you were trying to accomplish in the game.
Well, that makes sense then, yeah. Okay.
Back to the States.
Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, is a survival horror game developed and published by Capcom, released in January 2017 for Windows, PS4, Xbox One, and in May 2018 for the Nintendo Switch in Japan, which is not really a release. It's kind of like, it's like this cloud-based streaming. It's very, very weird. It's not like an official release.
I would love it to be on the Switch.
Yeah, it would be really cool. Diverging from the more action-oriented Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 7 returns to the franchise's survival horror roots, emphasizing exploration. The player controls Ethan Winters as he searches for his wife in a derelict plantation occupied by a cannibal family, solving puzzles and fighting enemies. It is the first main series game to use a first-person view.
Dude, goddamn cannibals always running derelict plantations.
Right.
This game, like, good lord,
it's awesome.
I've played through this game. I'm on my third playthrough of it. I played through it initially. I played on easy mode so I could get the buzzsaw, because if you beat the game in under 3 hours, you get that in the next playthrough. And now I'm playing through it on Madhouse, and it is it's a madhouse. Like, it's insanely hard. And I've got all the DLC for it. Like, this is probably my third favorite Resident Evil in the series.
It's really good. I think it's way better than it had any right to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the fact that I haven't played it, but the fact that it has VR support, I would love to try that.
Some people say it's the only way to experience VR is because on PlayStation VR is because they say it is the best title to play.
I don't doubt that.
Resident Evil 7 is the first full-length game to use Capcom's in-house RE engine. The development was led by Koshi Nakanishi, director of the 2012 Nintendo 3DS game Resident Evil Revelations. It was presented as a virtual reality demo, Kitchen, a year prior to its announcement at E3 2016, and supports the PlayStation VR headset. Resident Evil 7 was considered a return to form for the series. Critics praised the gameplay, graphics, and design, but criticized the boss battles and the final chapter, which I don't know why.
I don't know, because the boss battles were, arguably hard and terrifying. Like, the only part I didn't like is at the end when you have to fight the father and he just turns into that giant fucking BOW.
Yeah.
And then at the end you find out, who, oh God, what's her name? Is it, I want to say Annabelle?
Wait, so what's a BOW?
It stands for bioorganic weapon.
Yeah, and that's what, you get introduced to those in Resident Evil 5. 5 on is when you start seeing those.
The player controls Ethan Winters from a first-person perspective as he searches the Baker house for his missing wife. Although Ethan is a civilian with few combat skills, he is able to arm himself with a variety of different weapons, including handguns, shotguns, flamethrowers, explosives, and chainsaws, against the Baker family and a humanoid form of fungus known as the Molded. He can also block attacks and reduce damage. Various sections of the game are spent being pursued by members of the Baker family, who, if engaged in combat, can only be temporarily incapacitated. However, these encounters are avoidable by means of stealth or just running away.
Dude, that part in Resident Evil 7 when he gets his hand cut off.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets it reattached, and throughout the whole game, you can see the stitches of his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that part had me. Like,
yeah,
I was not expecting that.
It was nuts.
Yeah. Following the release of Resident Evil 6, Capcom conducted internal discussions regarding the direction of the next installment. A preliminary version of the game, developed in 2013, featured a more action-oriented gameplay, similar to that of Resident Evil 6. Taking inspiration from the 1981 film The Evil Dead, the developers decided to scale back the game to one location and use a first-person perspective to immerse players and return the series back to its roots of survival horror, which I think was a fantastic move.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you don't have first-person Resident Evil up until now in any of the games.
Yeah.
Like,
there was one that was like one of the spin-off games.
Yeah.
But that game was whack as fuck.
Yeah, is it like the rail shooting game where You move the targets around.
No, there was another one. There was a different one. I can't remember what it was called, but it was dumb.
Yeah, that whole introduction of the whole first person thing was a great move on Capcom's part.
Development began around February 2014. The game is built on a new engine named RE Engine, which includes virtual reality development tools. The decision to make the game first person was made well before VR was considered. VR development started in October 2015, for which a separate team was created. The introduction of VR demanded that textures be more detailed, discarding flat textures and inaccurate object sizes that had previously been used. I really want to try this game in VR.
I would love to. I mean, I would have to play it in increments because
right, like
it was terrifying enough to play it on the like without VR. But I was gonna just mention that, like, just to fathom that they made their own video game engine and have it look so well when it came out, like that just. Everything in that game looks so good.
Yep, it was great. Everything was great. Well, that's all we have for you today. We wanted to apologize to our guest Mila Jovovich for not having enough time. Apparently, we weren't going to mention the movies in this episode anyway, so we really didn't need you.
As always, you can find us on social media, on Facebook at the Nerd Corporation, a podcast.
On Twitter and Instagram at Nerd Corp Podcast.
Or you can email us at nerdcorppodcast@gmail.com.
And if you want to help in the fight against terror viruses from T to Regent 92, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/nerdcorppodcast. Several tiers of loot to have access to, including ringtones and giveaways, to secret episodes and bonus content. So, for the Nerd Corporation, my name is Eddie Lyon.
My name's Nick Lewis.
I'm Cole Simper.
And I'm Derek Reese.
Thank you, and peace out.